This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah, thank you for joining and welcome to day 4 session on Azure. And today, we'll be discussing on compute. And yesterday we started discussing on some of the Azure fundamentals around compute. Okay, so before you go and create anything in Azure platform, you need to understand that you need a few things to be in place. So some of them we discussed yesterday. We need an active Azure account. We discussed how to create it in an Azure platform. We also discussed how to create a subscription and use it for free for just first 30 days. And we can also convert it to pay as you go as you want. And we also discussed about what are the different hierarchical arrangement of the Azure resources. So whatever resource we create, okay, so it has to have a resource group and a subscription active. Without subscription and resource group, you will not be able to create a resource. That is the basic understanding you should have. And some resource, when you go and create it, it might also create some associated sub resources. Okay, so that is also something there. And if you have multiple subscription, more than 5, 6 subscription, and if you have many of those, it becomes a little tougher to manage the policies, permission, handle the standards and all those things. So if you want to implement best practices, you might have to do it on multiple subscription. So to alleviate that particular challenge, to help you with implementing the standards, governance, best practices, if you want to implement some policies, procedures across these subscription, you can group them into something called management group. This is purely from management standpoint, governance standpoint. If you want to manage multiple subscription with common standards, policies, permission, best practices, and if you want to apply some compliance legal requirements, then you can group them into one management group and you can apply it. Okay, this is mainly for better governance and management. It is not a mandatory thing, it's an optional thing. Okay, and we also discussed there are some unique identifiers that gets associated or that gets assigned along with all your resources. We call it as resource ID. And tenant is something which is more related to identity boundary, which we will discuss during Azure Active Directory. Okay, and moving on to, yeah, let me just mute that line. Okay, yeah. Okay, so there are a lot of other things which we discussed when some of the questions were raised, whether we will be able to move the resources. I explained that there is a concept called resource mover, which can be used for moving your resources across subscription, resource group, and region. Similarly, we discussed about resource lock, which can be used for preventing any kind of accidental modification and accidental deletion, right? This is mainly to protect your resources. And today we will be getting more closer to the virtual machine. So we created a couple of VMs, but we did not get too much deeper into the options that we selected there. So we will discuss all those options today. Okay, so when you go and create a,
Stan,
yeah,
Bala here. So sorry to interrupt you.
no, no, no
So
problem.
you,
Hmm,
yeah, you. I mean, we were discussed about resource mover, but while we are
hmm,
creating the resource group, we are
hmm.
supposed to select the region, right?
Yes, correct. We are supposed to select the
Okay.
region. Yes.
Okay. So in case if I create a VM instance on US East,
Hmm.
and if I move the resource to another group which belongs to US West, so how
Hmm.
the resource, I mean, how the VM is going to be? It is going to be remains as US East, same one, or how it is going to be?
No, so resource group and virtual network, these are all kind of logical constraint. It's a logical folder. Okay, it's a way to kind of group the resources pertaining to a particular application or a project. So you are containing them together so that you can delete that resource group when that resources are not required. Okay, the underlying resources can be present in anywhere. For example, you can start a project where you can go and create VMs in India, Singapore, and US, and so on. So that doesn't have any kind of restrictions. So you have a resource group that can be created in a centralized location. Maybe you might start the application only in India, and maybe the application might become successful, and you might want to expand that application to other regions or other locations. So if you want to kind of create separate resource group and store it there, that's fine with the design. Okay, it's okay to do that. But If you're planning to have only one resource group and continue to add resources from other region, that is also fine. So it all depends on how you want to organize it or how you want to get it aligned better. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So, as I just said, when you want to go and create any resource, you need to have two things. One is subscription, which has to be active, and you need to have a resource group. And as I explained yesterday, if you're not selecting any resource group, or if you don't have if you're not giving any new resource group name, it will automatically go and assign a new resource group name. Yesterday we saw that, right? When we created this VM Linux one, it went ahead and assigned a different resource group with a common name, like it assigned the VM name underscore group, and which is not a good practice, right? It's better to always have your own practice of assigning a name. Okay, so that is one of the things which we discussed yesterday. We discussed about the naming convention document. Okay, so we discussed how to name the resources. That is very, very important. Now, okay, let's do one thing. Okay, let's start with, okay, so we have the VM now, and we have got, okay, let's do one thing. Okay, let's go and create the VM. Let's complete this. Okay, so the important thing is you need to have a subscription and a resource group. I'll go and select any existing resource group here. Maybe if I want to clean up some of these resources quickly, what I can do is, as in the lab especially, I can just say these are the resources that I'm creating for uh, January batch compute class. Okay, so yeah, if you have any questions, you can unmute yourself, or else you can stay on mute. Okay, thank you. So compute,
Stan,
I'll say zero.
I have a
Yeah,
question. Just I have
yes.
created a VM, and automatically I can see that VNet resource group also created. So is it by default automatically it will created a VNet?
Kanagaraj,
Uh,
if you kind of select, see, for example, if you look at here, it by
mhm.
default, it is creating a new VNet. So if you look at the other tabs, you
Okay.
will see that like we are going to see each and every options today. Okay, so
Okay.
you are talking about the one under the networking. This is the one which is created. If you look at here, it creates a new
Yeah.
VNet if you're not giving anything. So whatever the name of
Okay.
resource group you give, it automatically creates a VNet with that resource group naming convention. You can also go and change it. Okay, yeah, we'll see that.
Okay.
We'll cover that.
Sure.
Kanagaraj.
Yeah.
Yes, sure.
Thank you. Yeah.
Good to see that you guys are practicing. It is very important. Okay, so learning is all okay, but you have to practice. And yeah, okay, yeah, sure. Okay, let me create a VM
Thank you.
today, and I'll say Sunday. um, I'll say Windows VM1. Okay, and I'll let it be in East US 2. Okay, and I'll also maybe I can just go and give it a operating system version. Okay, so Ubuntu is fine. And if you look at here, this is where we need to understand the availability options. And on the other day, we were discussing about this, right? So there are a lot of different availability options. Okay, so there is some issue with my Microsoft Excel, so I'm using OpenOffice. Let me increase the font, or let me increase this so that you get little clarity. Okay, so in order to improve the redundancy, in order to improve the availability, the very basic thing is when you go and create it, you are creating a single VM, right? And if you are using single VM for a particular application, this single virtual machine is actually prone to single point of failure, right? So if that VM goes down, your application is at a risk of losing access to the end users, right? And if you are going to improve the availability, you can go and create multiple VMs. Okay, so let's assume I'm going to create 2 VMs for an application. The first VM, you can go and create it in availability set. And if you add the second VM to the same availability set, what Microsoft will make sure is that they will move the VMs, or they'll create the VMs in different rack. Okay, availability set is equal to a rack in a data center. Okay, availability set is equal to rack in the data center. So they will create the first VM in the first rack and the second VM in the second rack. And if you have got an opportunity to look at the data center, in a particular rack, we will have multiple devices. On the very top of the rack, you will have the network switch, which will interconnect all the devices in the same rack to other racks or other locations and so on. You'll have a network switch. You might have a storage at the very bottom because it is heavy, so you'll have the storage at the very bottom in the rack, and you might have multiple servers in the rack. So what will happen is if you go and do the availability set grouping, the first server, first virtual machine, the virtual machine is a kind of logical VM, right? It's a kind of it's not a physical server, but it might seem like a physical server. It is going to get created in this particular server. And similarly, if you create the second VM, Microsoft will make sure that the second VM is getting created in rack 2. Okay, so this is rack 1 and it will create in rack 2. So rack 2 will have its own network switch 2. They call it as top of the rack switch. And we might have server, physical server 3, physical server 4, and so on. Okay, and you will have a separate storage there. Okay, let's not think about storage now, but let's talk about the virtual machine level. So the VM1 will be hosted on server 1 and the VM2 will be hosted on server 3. So that if there is a rack failure or if there is a switch failure or if this particular server hardware fails or if the power coming to this rack fails, so all these failure can be sustained because you have another virtual machine running on second rack. So that's the advantage of going with availability set. And within availability set, you have a very important concept called fault domain and update domain. Okay, so in a particular IT organization, you know, right, every electronic device is prone to failures. So any day, like I mean, anything relating to IT will fail. Okay, so we have to kind of be prepared for failure. Okay, when I say prepared for failure, fault will not tell you and happen, right? It will mostly happen unplanned. So for example, disk failure or memory failure or server failure or any kind of network switch port failure or network switch failure. So everything can fail. Okay, so we should be prepared for failure. And if that is the case, then we need to kind of understand how we can improve the availability to overcome those failures, right? So the way we handle it or the way we do it is to create an availability set and create the VMs into different tracks so that you can at least improve the availability. So this particular availability set, it will go and help you with making sure it can tolerate multiple failures. So it can tolerate network switch failure, network switch port failure, server failure, or disk failure. Even if the VM fails also, you have second VM running on different rack. So the application will continue to run even if the entire set of rack 1 components get failed. Okay, so with that, you will be able to achieve 99.90 availability and you will be able to get much better availability. So only 10 minutes downtime will be permitted with this kind of SLA. Okay, so let's go and discuss what is a fault domain and update domain. See, update domain is, you know, right? There are a lot of planned patching activity that will happen to keep your system updated. So even if you have a mobile application, you go and update it in Play Store to make use of the latest features, functionalities, and so on. Similarly, operating system, Microsoft releases patches every second Tuesday for the operating system, and you go and install the patches in non-production environment first, and then in the production environment, understanding if there is any impact because of installing and all those things, right? So you will do it in third week and fourth week. So every month you have a planned activity that happens for your operating system. Similarly, Microsoft also does planned activity for their underlying hardware. So they will go and maintain their network connections. They will go and upgrade the firmware or storage fabric, or they will go and upgrade the server firmware or whatever, like the maintenance that they need to do. Even Microsoft has to do the management and maintenance of their physical infrastructure. So planned activities will also happen in an IT environment, in an IT server room or data center. Even there might be a chance of unplanned outages. Okay, so we have to mitigate both of this. We have to plan and mitigate unplanned outages and the planned activities. So unplanned outages, how to sustain our service, overcoming the unplanned outages, how to keep our service up and running during the planned activities. So these are the things that comes under the availability set. So if I go and create an availability set here, okay, if I go and create a new availability set, it will ask me two options. Okay, what is the amount of fault domain you are looking at, and what is the number of update domain you are looking at. So see, for example, if I'm going and creating a availability set, it asks me what kind of fault domain you want and how many number of update domain you want. And if you, for example, if you are creating only 2 virtual machine, so 2 fault domain should be more than sufficient. And similarly, you can give 2 update domain. And if you have more virtual machines, for example, if I want to have 15 or 10 different virtual machines in this availability set, so what I can do is I can go and say I need around, so the maximum that is permitted is 3 fault domain. Okay, and the maximum that is permitted on the update domain is 20. Okay, you can increase it up to 20 update domain. The default is 5, and you can increase up to 3. The default is 2 for the fault domain. So this is an exam question again. So the default is 3. Okay, and you can go up to maximum of 3. And sorry, default is 2. Okay, default is 2. Default is 5. Max you can go up to 3, and max you can go up to 20. And this, for this use case, okay, for this application requirement, you have planned to use 10 VMs, and it is okay that you go and select the maximum number of update domain. But if you want to just limit it to 10 update domain, that is also fine. Okay, so for example, if I'm saying I just want to assign 3 fault domain, and I want to use only 6 fault update domain for an example. Okay, so I'm just giving fault domain as 3 FD, and this is not fixed deposit. Okay, so this 3 for FD, and this is fault domain. FD means, and UD means update domain. So what will happen here is the virtual machine 1, 2. So we are having 10 virtual machine here, right? So we'll add the 10 VMs here. So when you go and create the 10 VMs, automatically it will go and get placed into different fault domains and update domain. So the numbering in most of the cloud concept, it starts with 0. Okay, meaning if you have 3 fault domain, it comprises of FD0, FD1, and FD2. Similarly, if you're talking about 6 update domain, the numbering starts with 0. UD0, UD1, UD2, and up to UD5. Because we have got 6, we started with 0, so it will end with 5. Okay, so now you will have these numbers. Okay, I'll just put down this here. FD0, FD1, FD2. So we have got 3 fault domain. So automatically, the VMs will go and get scattered across the different fault domains here. Okay, and similarly you will have the VM scattered across different update domains. This is auto placement. We don't have to do anything, so we just need to give the number of fault domain and update domain. So automatically Microsoft backend logging algorithm will take care of placing the VM into the required update domain and fault domain. So now what you need to understand here is, if okay, so we have got 6, right? Yeah, that's fine. So if you have got, okay, let me, okay, so if you have got a particular FD0 rack 1, if FD0 is getting failure, then what will happen? VM1, VM4, VM7, and VM10, 4 VMs will not be available if FD0, if rack 0 is failing. Similarly, okay, let's assume this as rack 0, and let's assume this is rack 1. Okay, and I mean, it should not be 0, but again, just for mapping the numbers, I'm just giving it as um, using that way. But generally rack numbers will not start with 0, but it will have some numbers. So if rack 0 or if fault domain 0 fails, okay, what will happen? Only virtual machines 1, 4, 7, and 10 will fail. And if FD1 fails, VM2, 5, 8 will fail. And if the 2 fails, there are some VMs which are running on the rack 3 or rack 2 will be failing. So you will not have all the VMs failing at any point of time. So if these 2 racks are failing, still you have got one more fault domain or one more rack which is still providing the service that you need. Similarly, if Microsoft goes and patches the update domain 0, so Microsoft will have scheduled patching activity or scheduled planned activity for their hardware in a particular interval. For example, in the morning, at 6 a.m. they might do UD0 patching up activity, and at around 8 a.m. they will go and do patching for UD1 group of servers. Similarly, they will go and do patching activity for different set of servers in a different interval. Okay, so let me just okay, 6 a.m. Okay, so at 4 a.m. during the planned activity, they will gracefully power off the VMs or move the VMs that are running on this particular update domain to another hardware, or during the update domain 0 patching activity or update activity, only the servers VM1 and VM7 will be impacted. And if they are patching the the underlying infrastructure during update domain 1 activity, only VM2 and VM8 will be impacted. Similarly, like if they are patching the underlying physical infrastructure, the network or server or storage, the update domain 5 has got only one VM that will be impacted. So this will be a planned activity. So updating or planning, patching, or doing a firmware upgrade, or doing any kind of update or upgrade, it is a planned activity because we are notifying the customers and we are doing it. So it can be in a planned way, and update domain can sustain, can be done in a much proper way. Okay, so any questions from anyone on the availability set concept? So in an availability set concept, you can have up to 3 maximum fault domain and 20 maximum update domain. Yeah, go ahead.
The
Not
secondary
sharing.
VM is
Yeah.
mandatory.
In order to achieve more SLA, yes. Okay, so see, if you are talking about single VM, you know, right, what kind of SLA you are going to get, maybe 99%. That is like close to 2 hours of downtime per week. Okay, and if you are talking about better SLA, you need to have multiple VMs.
Okay, so if
This is,
you consider
yeah.
FD0 as rack 1, so does the rack 1 will have multiple VMs? Or
Yes,
is
that is
it
true.
one-to-one mapping?
It can have, right? See, if you look at here, this FD0 has got VM1, VM4, VM7, and VM10. There are 4 VMs running on the same rack.
So same VM can be used for both fault domain and updated domain.
Yeah, it's at the end only one domain. Yeah, at the end it is only one VM here. Okay, it can be combined with 2 different concepts. Yes.
Okay. So how if let's say rack 1 is failing, so the data whatever during that point of time, will it get transferred to the next rack?
The underlying storage is the common one. Okay, so we are just talking about the front end here. We are not talking about the backend storage, which provides you the disk to store the data. So the backend storage is different. Okay, so there might be 3 storage unit or 4 storage unit. The storage unit might be a lot many, and we are talking about only the front end servers here. So this will go and store the data on the common storage, and the storage that we are using can be common across these VMs. But yeah, so it's like only the front end we are talking about here.
Okay, okay. And per VM, the default values for fault and updated domain, is it per VM or is it for
Yeah, it is
single
per
VM?
VM. It is per
Okay.
VM. Yeah. So let's go and create it. See, this is just an example, okay, to make you understand. So just for an application, I plan to create 10 VMs. So that's how it is getting scattered. So ideally, you need not create these many VMs, because like at the end, you can see that in one rack there are too many VMs, right? So I mean, it all depends on the design and the requirements of your organization. If there are multiple users and if you need multiple VMs to cater their needs, then you can go and create 10 VMs or 20 VMs or whatever you need. But if you can provide the better service with just 3 VMs or 4 VMs, that should be more than sufficient. So it all depends on your client requirements and the end user traffic requirement. Yeah.
Okay, okay, okay. Thank you,
Yeah,
thank you.
sure.
So what is the update domain? Actually, fault domain is if any device is fault, okay, there is fault domain is we have created. What is the update domain?
Update is updating or upgrading or patching or doing some maintenance activity,
Okay.
or doing some kind of changes in Microsoft physical infrastructure, not on the VM level, on the backend physical infrastructure where our VMs are running. For example, they will go and change the network switch port. They will go and change the cables. They might go and do some kind of server firmware upgrade or driver upgrade. They might go and change some component in the server. They might go and change the disk, or they might go and change the underlying fabric connection, or they will upgrade it. Maintenance, they might do some planned maintenance. This is more about planned activity that happens on the physical infrastructure of Microsoft data center.
Okay.
Microsoft data
Then,
center. Yeah.
fault domain 3 means it is 3 racks, right? Or how?
Yeah, kind of 3 racks. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Stan,
So did I?
Rajeshwaran here.
Yes, Rajesh.
The availability set and fault domain both are same.
Correct. Availability set comprises of 2 components. One is fault domain and the other one is update domain. So
Okay.
Microsoft is taking care of both unplanned outages and planned activities in a common umbrella called availability set. So availability
Okay.
set comprises of 2 options. That's what we are seeing here,
Okay.
right? So it gives us option to overcome unplanned and planned maintenance events. So group 2 or more VMs in an availability set to ensure that at least one is available during the planned and unplanned maintenance event. So as a design architect, as a design engineer, you have to ensure if you have multiple VMs, you need to ensure that the application is available to the end user by placing them into different racks or different server devices.
That
So
we
that's
can able
the,
to specify that if we are creating availability, high availability for first VM and second VM, we
correct.
can fix
So
first in FD0 and FD1.
yeah, so what we can do is we can enter, or we can just give the number of fault domain that is needed. For example, if I need fault domain 3 and update domain 6, I can just give whatever I need, and the placement is auto placement. So we are not going to go and say like I need this VM to be in this particular fault domain, update domain. That we cannot do. It will be automatically based on a algorithm, like a kind of distributed resource scheduler algorithm on the back end by the Microsoft virtualization layer. It will automatically go and place our VMs. Whenever we create a new VM, it will go and check how many VMs are there in FD0 and UD0. If there is already a VM there, it will go and add it in FD1 and UD1. So it will be auto placement. We are not handling the placement manually. It is auto
Oh, in
placement
case
using
of
their
high
own.
availability, sorry,
Hmm.
in case of high availability, if I am creating same server for redundancy, so in that case, how I can able to define that rack?
No, come again with your question.
No, in case of redundancy, if I am creating high availability for our particular application, two server
Okay.
I am creating
Yeah.
first and second. In
Yeah.
that case, how I can able to define the racks fault
I'm going
domain?
to show you that. I'm going to show you that. Yeah, that's what we are going to see that now. Okay. So I'm creating the
Okay.
first server now, and we'll create the
Okay.
second server right after this, and you will get to understand it. Okay.
Okay.
So let's
Yeah.
go and do it. Okay. So, okay, let me see that there is a question in the chat. Okay. Okay, let me do one thing. Okay, in the interest of people getting to see the questions, I will give you access to post the questions to everyone so that everyone sees the question. As of now, Fazil has, oh, Fazil, okay. So it has we are running rack one will be active and rack one will be standby. No, it's not active standby, it's all active. Okay. So I will just go and okay, so that's fine. So it's active Fazil. It's not like a clustering concept. It's kind of active, whether in this case all the systems will be active. Okay, so let me just create this. Okay, so once the first VM is created, now the deployment is in progress, and you can just go to the availability set. You can also create the availability set as a separate resource also. It need not be created along with the VM creation. You can also go and create the availability set to provide redundancy to your application separately. Okay, so you can just see that. Create 2 or more virtual machine in the availability set to distribute their placement across Azure hardware cluster. Okay, they have got a backend cluster that will help you to scatter the VMs in multiple Microsoft Azure hardware cluster. Okay, let me put it here so that you see it. Okay, so now if I refresh it, you can see that it is getting created along with the VM. Okay, no, these are all logical concept, Bhaskar. Okay, there is no cost for these kind of logical grouping. Okay, but you have to pay for the number of VMs you are creating. But there is no cost associated for availability set or these kind of logical concepts. Does not cost you anything, but you are increasing the number of VMs here, so that has to be that is charged. Okay, if I open this availability set, you can see that there is first VM which is getting created, and it will go and assign the fault domain and update domain automatically. But what we have done is we have selected how many fault domain we need and how many update domain we need. So as of now, it has got only one virtual machine. So now if I want to go and add more VMs, I can just go and create more virtual machines and select the same availability set. Okay, so if I go and select the Sunday one, what is the resource group which we used? Okay, Jan compute. Okay, so I'll go and say I need a second VM, Windows VM 2. And now instead of going and creating a new one, I can go and select the existing one. Go and select the availability set, and you will be selecting the existing availability set. Makes sense, Chandrasekhar, or someone who asked the question, right? Or Venkat or someone. Okay, Rajesh, right? Yeah.
Rajeshwaran.
Yeah, Rajesh. So now you need to, when you create the subsequent VMs, you need to select the availability set and create it so that it will go and automatically get placed under the available update and fault domain. So we don't handle it or we don't manage it. We just provide our requirements, how many fault domain is needed and how many update domain is needed. That is the only thing we specify. Okay, so let this get created. Okay, so for example, if you want to improve this better, if you want to have your virtual machines created in different data center, different physical data center, then there is a concept called availability zone. Okay, so availability set is only rack level, and we have something called availability zone, which is at the data center level. Zone is equal to a data center. Set is equal to a rack. It's a physical data center. Okay, so now if I want to have my VMs or application fault tolerant against data center failure, then I'll go and create the VM1 in data center 1, which is availability zone 1, and the second VM will be created in availability zone 2, and so on. Okay, so some locations will have 3 availability zones, or some locations will have 2 availability zones, and so on. Okay, so based on the different region, you can go and create your VMs in different availability zones or different data centers, and that will give you fault tolerance even when a particular data center goes down. If there is a data center going down because of cooling or power or some natural disaster or whatever, so the second VM will be running on the other 2 data centers without any impact. So you will be able to achieve 99.95% SLA, which is kind of 5 minutes downtime per week. Okay, let's go and see how to do that. So when you go and create a virtual machine,
And Satya here.
Yeah.
I have one query about this availability zone. Actually, you are
Mhm.
creating one resource group. Under the resource group, you are creating some availability zone. So in
Mm.
this case, even if you want to create a new VM, we
Mm.
can use the same kind of availability zone while selecting the machine, so that respective policy is going to apply to the new virtual machine. What about the resource group? If I'm creating one resource group, under the resource group, if I want to specific to some VM to be in this availability zone, or some VM to be in different VM availability, that can be done, or it cannot be done.
Okay, so you cannot combine availability zone and availability set. It is that option is available in storage concept, but not yet in compute concept. In compute concept, it is being discussed, but we don't have the option to combine availability set and availability zone as of now. But in the future, it will be available. As of now, in storage concept in Azure, it is available. You can actually make sure that your contents or your data is scattered across multiple racks and also multiple data centers. That is possible as of now in storage, but not in the compute layer yet. Yeah. So now
Yes.
if I go and yeah.
Something differ. If we are selecting some resource group, is it? Under the resource groups, we are adding the availability, availability zones. That availability policies you are assigning, is it? So whatever the VMs under the resource groups will get the same policy, or it can be differ.
Okay, so there are a lot of concepts which we will discuss. Minute, what is your name? Let me see this. So there are a lot of concepts which we will be discussing during the governance class. So there is something called Azure policy and Azure blueprint, through which you can govern individual VMs, or you can also govern overall subscription. There is a concept called policy, okay, through which you can manage like a Active Directory group policy. You can go and assign something to a specific resource or a specific VM or a specific subscription. So we can do it. We can also create a blueprint and define the policy and apply it to the entire subscription or to a specific resource or resource group. We'll see that later. Okay, we have this particular session covered in module 18.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Sure. So I'm going to create another VM now, and this will be part of my, let's say this is a Saturday VM, Saturday Windows VM in data center 1. Okay, so when I say data center 1, I'm going to select the availability zone.
Some noise is coming from your side.
Is it for everyone or just for Bala? Can one of you guys are good, right? So Bala, please try to connect, reconnect.
Yeah, we don't have any disturbance, Stan.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Thank you. Bala, please reconnect. Yeah. Okay, let me go and choose the availability zone. And here I can go and choose 3 different data centers. In East US, we have got 3 different zones. Zone means data center. So I'm going to select data center 1, and I can go and create the VM. And similarly, if I go and select data center 2, and I can just create the second VM in second data center. So availability zone means you are creating servers in multiple data centers to have redundancy or to have fault tolerance of your application. Okay, and you can have 2 or more virtual machines in running in different data centers, right? So let's go and check the availability set now. Okay, let's go and check that. Let's go and check the availability set. So now you can see that it has created both the VMs. Both the VMs are running, and automatically it has placed the VM1 in FD0 and the UD0. Similarly, the second VM has got placed in FD1 and UD1. Right? You don't have control to change this, or you don't have option to move this. Automatically, Microsoft will take care of placing and moving the VMs across different fault domain and update domain. It's like your VMware distributed resource scheduler concept, right? Where when you go and create a cluster, when you go and create a group, it goes and automatically places your VM to enable higher redundancy and higher availability. Okay, so this is a very important concept. Any questions on availability set and availability zone?
Stan Tamara here.
Yeah.
So earlier I thought adding availability set will make a copy of the virtual machine we create. Now I got to understand that how many machines we are giving in fault domain and how many machines we are giving in update domain. All the machine we have to create it.
Yeah. Fine.
We have to create it separately.
Correct.
So it is not kind of backup, right? If we deploy something in one machine, will it be added in all the machines we have? Like if we have totally 10 combined along with the update and fault domain.
Yeah. So these concepts are generally used for. Let me mute your line. I see an echo there. Okay, these concepts are mainly for front-end VMs. When I say front-end VMs, so you have some web servers or FTP servers or some front-end servers like Outlook Web Access servers. So these are all like useful for front-end servers where you don't have a lot of changes happening in the server level. And when you create more than one VM, then you need to combine them together into a load balancer to distribute the traffic. So that is something we'll see today. Okay, I'll We'll be just combining the server logically behind a load balancer, and without bringing them behind the load balancer, you will not be able to distribute the traffic. So all the VMs that we create will be identical. It will have the same exact web configuration. The same web configuration will be in VM2 and so on. So we have to put these VMs behind the load balancer so that when the end user connect, they will connect to the load balancer, not to the individual VMs. Okay, this is mainly for the front end VMs. For the back end VMs, if you're asking about the databases, you will have to go and create a SQL Server cluster or a failover cluster. Similarly, for any mail servers or any exchange, you have to go and create failover clustering. That is active passive or active active. That is different. Backend clustering concept is completely different. But still, you can go and create the VM into different availability set so that they are sustainable. By when there is a rack failure or when there is a data center failure, they are available for you. So you can do some kind of clustering at the OS level if you're talking about backend database servers, and you can replicate the data, or you can have some kind of heartbeat and so on, and you can combine those concepts here. So mainly this availability set is mainly used for the front end virtual machines where you have the identical VMs providing the service for the end user application requirement. Okay, so when we need to go ahead.
Stan sir, this is Giri. So under an availability set, we can create only 20 VMs, or we can create multiple VMs under a same availability set.
Yeah, you can have n number of VMs for your application, but at the end, maximum Microsoft will be able to tolerate 20. I mean, Microsoft will be able to create 20 different patching group or 20 different update group. Meaning, so if you have 100 VMs, 100 VMs will be scattered across this 20 update domain. So maybe five domains.
Okay.
Sorry, five VMs in each update domain.
Each update. Okay, it will be placed based on that, this numbering partition between the update domain or a fault domain.
Correct. So as of now, Microsoft data center size is in such a way that it can only accommodate 20 different grouping for updating the backend infrastructure. Similarly, they are able to give only three racks of redundancy based on their current data center size and capacity. Okay, so maybe in the future they might increase the number, but as on date, this is the number, and moving forward, they might have they might give you better availability and so on. So there is a question in the chat that they are still asking about availability set and availability zone, right? So as I said, set is equal to rack if all the servers in this particular data center, see all the racks are in one data center only, in single data center only. So okay, this is in single data center. So we first started with single VM. So single VM is prone to failure of any backend. If the backend server fails or the network fails or anything, single VM is prone to single point of failure. So we are having multiple VMs. Now we are starting with availability set, and you are having all the rack in the same data center. If the data center goes down, how you can sustain or how you can tolerate the failure? You cannot, right? So all the VMs in that particular single data center will go down and your application will get impacted. And we have the other concept called availability zone, which will help you to tolerate data center level failures. Meaning we are creating servers in multiple data center location. So even one data center goes down, you will still be able to run your applications using the VMs or using the virtual machines running on the second and third data center. Clear? Who asked that question on the chat? Dinesh, right? Yeah, well, not Dinesh. Yeah, Dinesh. Yeah.
Yes, I Stanley. So the question, let's say I have the 50 workloads to be deployed. 50 workloads, I want to distribute, I want to keep them under the availability zone. So let's say that since we have the 2 or 3 zones per region, so the want to distribute the VMs within the data center. So how the racks will be separate, or the under the one rack, like the how the availability set rate will distribute the VMs across the rack. Similarly, how it follow.
Okay, I'm not sure. Let me show you this. See, we created an availability set with how many? We created the availability set with 3 rack and 6 patching group, 6 update group. Okay, so we have told Microsoft that we are going to use 3 fault domain for this availability set or this application. So Microsoft will move the VMs or place the VMs into 3 different rack automatically whenever we go and add additional VMs. Okay, if I go and add third VM now, it will be getting created in FT2 and UD2. So similarly, if I go and create virtual machine 4, that's what I explained here, right? If I go and create virtual machine 4, it will automatically add to fault domain 0 and UD3 and so on. So that this is automatically getting placed. This is auto placement. We don't have to place anything. Yeah.
Agree. The availability zone, the fourth VM, where it gonna place? Again, going to the availability zone, right? If
No, zone is different. Zone, yeah, everything. See, all the VMs are in the same zone. That is true. See, that's what the question is, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm referring the availability zone. Okay, let's say here the 3 VMs, each VM going to the one zone. Okay, the fourth VM, in the sense, if I deploy another 5 more VMs, the fourth VM going to the availability zone 1 again.
Yeah.
So that again, VM1 and VM4 will be the same rack or different rack. Again, does it have the like how the availability set have the availability, right? Let's say keeping the update domain or the fault domain. Either way it follows, or how does the failover in the sense availability, though we have the multiple DZs availability we have, but still the VM availability I'm to understand.
Yeah, Dinesh. So that's what I conveyed right a minute back. So when you go and create a virtual machine, as on date, you don't have option to mix and match availability zone and availability set. For example, if you want to have a VM running in rack 1 and data center 1 and VM2 running in rack 2 and data center 2, something like if you want to just place them across different data center and different rack, that option is still not available. That's what I said. Availability zone and availability set cannot be combined. So when you go and create the VM, you are getting an option to either select availability set or availability zone, right? So now it is not available, but I attended a webinar where they were discussing how to implement it, how to bring it. So it is still in kind of early stage. It is still not available. See, you have the option to either choose whether I need rack level redundancy or whether I need data center level redundancy. I can just choose only one as on date. But definitely the Microsoft team is on the back to working on it to see how we can distribute the VMs to sustain rack level failure and data center level failure. I use both the concept together. Okay, as on date, it's not available, Dinesh. FD and UD has the same data. So, okay, I'll come to the storage part, Bhaskar. Yeah, in some cases, yeah, it might be the same storage, but it all when we go and create the managed disk or when you go and create the disk, you have the option to keep them into different storage unit. So that is something which we will discuss later. So different storage unit. Storage unit means storage hardware. Yeah. Go ahead, Babu.
One question. Let's say first VM don't have any availability issue. So the secondary will be ideal, or it will be used by some other resource. I mean, it will be used.
All the VMs are actively used. So this is not active passive. This is not to improve the business continuity. This is mainly to have disaster record. Like it's active VMs. All 10 VMs will be actively used because we are adding it to the back end of the load balancer. The load balancer, based on the utilization on each of the VMs, the traffic will be distributed on all the VMs. So the load balancer will look at which VMs are getting utilized to which extent, and it will be distributing the traffic. So all the VMs are actively used here. There is no active passive here. It's all active VMs.
Okay. And one more question. What is the situation? The availability set is created or availability zone is created? What is the situation?
Situation is like if you want to have tolerance level across data center, then you need to go and create it in availability zone. If you want tolerance level within the data center across rack, you need to go and use the availability set. Not all the regions have got availability zone, Babu. Okay, so there are a lot of locations where we don't have more than one data center. See, for example, if I go and choose South India, it doesn't give me option to choose multiple zone. So only in certain region where this is available, you can go and use the maximum benefits. If I go and see here, there is no multiple data centers there. There are no zones there, meaning you can only achieve rack level failure tolerance in South India, in Chennai data center. Okay, it's not like you can go and design your application to achieve maximum tolerance, meaning, so if you have some availability zone level of redundancy in some location, some region, go and implement availability zone level redundancy, not set level redundancy.
Okay, so we can create any one of that, either set or zone.
It depends on region to region. If you are going and creating it in Mumbai is getting more availability zone, more data centers. So it's better to keep your VMs in multiple data centers and achieve maximum availability.
Okay, thank you.
The percentage level is different, right? So availability set is going to give you only 99.90% of SLA, whereas availability zone is going to give you 99.95% of SLA.
Okay.
So in
Then one
availability
question.
zone also,
Yeah, Giri, go ahead.
So in availability zone also, there will be the fault domain and update domain.
No, as of now, there is no combination possible. See, availability zone and availability set cannot be combined together as of now. It's either of one of them, Okay, and moving forward, you might get the option. So you can stay tuned to Microsoft update, and if they provide both the options combined together, it will be a better advantage. Yeah, as on date, it's not available.
So we can have redundancy in the form of availability zone or availability set.
Exactly. True. Exactly. Yeah. Go ahead, Abhijit.
Stan, yeah. We have a maximum 3 fault domains. So if in case there is unplanned outage with all 3 domains, so that will cause the outage for the VM.
Yeah, true. See, if there is a data center failure, or if there is all the 3 racks are getting failed because of some rack issues or network issue, then yeah. So even in the recent past, in December, there were 2 outages, right? In the complete data center went down in East US in AWS cloud. So the entire data center went down because of the core rack failed. See, we will be planning all these things. At the end, if the core rack has some network issue, or if the core switch has got some traffic challenges, so the entire data center will be out. Okay, so yeah, so if all the 3 racks are down, then the application will go down. Yes, but it is not going to happen daily, right? It's going to happen once in a while, maybe once in 6 months, or once in a year, something like that. So we are trying to do whatever maximum possible with the kind of technology that we have in hand, with the kind of options we have. We should go and try and implement maximum redundancy for our application.
So what kind of SLA can we achieve with availability set?
99.90, meaning 10 minutes of downtime per week, 40 minutes of downtime per month, 8 hours of downtime per year. Yeah. Okay, so it's not that it is going to be down for 10 minutes, but if it goes down beyond 10 minutes, then Microsoft will have to give you service credit. Okay, see, Microsoft is providing you assurance. For example, they say monthly uptime is 99.90, meaning if Microsoft is not able to give you that uptime, Microsoft will pay back 10% or 10% of service credit. Or if you are able to submit the financial impact of your application because of Microsoft data center being down, they will validate the bill, and they will be able to provide you that charges. Okay, if it is because of your design, it is because of your own uh, uh, configuration, then they will not be paying you. But if it is because of Microsoft data center going down because of their core switch or physical infrastructure problem, if they are not able to meet the uptime percentage or uptime SLA that they have committed, then they will be giving you by default 10% service credit of the monthly charges. Or you can also go and get the actual bill or actual financial impact if you are able to submit with proper justification and so on. So there are different things. For example, if Microsoft is committing 99.95, and if they are able to only provide 99.90, they will give you 10% credit. Similarly, if they are able to only provide 99.00 percentage of SLA, they will give you 25% credit. If the SLA goes down beyond 95%, they will give you 100% service credit for that month. So they will not charge you. Okay, so this particular concept, they are actually giving you a kind of SLA which are financially backed. SLAs are financially backed, so you get some kind of credit if they are not able to meet the SLA. Understood? Shall I move on?
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. So now what we need to do is we need to go and understand what kind of image that we are planning to do. So there are a lot of images here, right? So you can see that it has got Windows Server, Ubuntu, Red Hat. It has got a wide range of operating system flavors like Oracle, Red Hat, CentOS, and so on. So if you want to go and see all the images, there are organizations which might go and use the operating system images which is plain, or there are some organization which might want to use something which is already CAS compliant, meaning, so see, for example, some organization might need to follow some legal compliance and security compliance. So if they want to do it, one second, if they want to do it, they can go and achieve that using some kind of images that is present. You can also go and create your own image. See, for example, I've created a VM and I can go and do some kind of hardening. When I say hardening, I can go and implement some security policies, or I can go and apply some group policies and so on. And I can improve the quality or improve the machine's configuration. And that's what we call it as hardening, right? You can actually do your own hardening and you can improve based on your industry standard. And you can create an image once you have done the hardening. But some organization, they are trying to adopt the existing images which are already compliant. See, for example, there is an organization called Center for Internet Security. This is one of the most commonly followed organization when it comes to hardening and imaging concept. So CAS has got some standards which you can follow. See, for example, if I want to follow a particular standard for Center for Internet Security, I can go to the CAS site and I can go and download the different configurations that they are guiding us for each and every operating system. If you go to the CAS site, you can see that you will be able to download all the benchmark for every single operating system that is there in the network. Okay, this is an organization which gives you a benchmark standard to achieve better configuration to close down any vulnerabilities and so on. So you can download the benchmark standard for your operating system and you can implement it. But if you want to implement it, it needs a lot of time. You need to do a imaging, packaging, and so on. So you can do it manually by following the PDF document and you can achieve the maximum benchmark or policy. So a lot of organization, they want your image, want your operating system to be 95% compliant or more, so that you have better security. This is mainly for security aspect. But what some organizations are doing now, they will go and pick the image from the marketplace itself, meaning they can go and search for CAS compliant images. So CAS is already providing an image which is already hardened according to CAS benchmark. So you don't have to go and do these things manually and spend a lot of time there. So you get something which is already compliant to the CAS standards. So there are two ways you can do it. If you want to do it on your own, you want to use your own imaging tools, ImageX, Packer, and all those things, and you can do it. Or else you can go and utilize the existing images that are all CAS compliant. Many organizations are using it, and you need to pay $0.02 per hour for using this image. Okay, so definitely CAS is getting a share of the running cost, but it's a good thing to go and utilize it. And again, there are different organizations looking for different levels of security. See, some organization will only want L1, some organization will look for level 2 security. It all depends on the organization and application owner requirement. If you go and implement a higher level of benchmarking, then it will be more hardened system. Okay, so always try to understand the business requirement, talk to the customer. If they really want L1, L2 benchmark, then go and choose the respective benchmark for your operating system. Okay, or else you can also create your own image. I'll show you how to do that right now. Okay, and we can um, get to select that. So imaging, there are two different images. You can create your own image. This is custom image or customer image. Okay, or you can also go and use the image that are sold in the marketplace will give you a lot of different images. So CAS one vendor, and similarly CMMS vendor will provide you some images. So there are hundreds of vendor who will provide their own customized images to achieve some level of compliance. Okay, so I am just going to log into one of the VM here, and for an example, let's take this finance East US app VM. And as of now, I don't think there is nothing running inside it. I'll go and create some install some kind of packages or some kind of roles and features, and we can take an image out of it. I'll show you how to do that quickly. Okay, let's wait for a minute. So you all understand what exactly is an image is, right? Image is a collection of the metadata or whatever you want to do inside your operating system, and you can do all those things and you can capture it as an image. So here, let me check if see if I want to just have the enhanced security off or on for your virtual machine. I can just go and do all the configurations here, and all the configuration will be captured when I go and take an image of it, or if I go and take a full snapshot of it. Okay, let me just disable this firewall so that if I'm going and enabling any specific traffic, it will not impact us, or it will not block the traffic. Okay, let me close this. Okay, oh sorry, let me go and add some roles, some folders and so on. Okay, let me add a role here. Maybe this VM, I'm planning to use it as a web server. I can just go and install some of the roles here. Like I can add a web server IAS role and I can install it. Okay, I can also go and create some folders so that you can check whether these folders are getting captured in the image. So it can be a file server or an FTP server or a web server. Okay, let's do that. So how many of you have done hardening for your organization?
Yeah, I'll be
I
doing it
have
actually.
done.
So, but actually, 2022 it is not there, no, for CAS. They have not released it, right?
Yeah, CAS images are not available for 2022. True. See, the
Yeah.
more the customers start using it, the quicker that CAS will respond to it, right? As of now, you got an
Yeah.
image which is 2022, but it's not. So yeah, can you help me with some processes that you follow when you do that?
I used to run.
On a very high level. When
Like,
on a very high level,
okay.
don't have to be
Yeah.
too deep.
Turn
Just on
off
a very high level.
this firewalls kind of thing.
Uh-huh. Okay, so there are some specific settings you will go and apply on your system and create the image, right? So what kind of tools you use to do that? Let me just
My
see
kid is
here.
shouting actually. Sorry.
No problem. Yeah. So let me
No,
share it.
actually, everything is loaded, preloaded, predefined. Actually, we used to kick off through Ansible.
Okay.
All this, so not on top of my mind. Let me open a few settings. You can turn off a
So
firewall, so that is one of the things. And um, uh, the
Fine.
messages
I
when we
think.
log in.
Go ahead. Yeah. Still. Yeah.
So I do for Linux, and we
Okay.
do mainly on grub settings, kernel tunings, the SSH configuration changes. For example,
Okay.
we don't allow direct boot login, so that will be restricted. And the sudoverse will not be managed from the individual server. Instead, that will be managed directly from the LDAP. So these kind of high-level things we do.
Okay, perfect, good. So there are different standard, different method that some of the organization does, but at the end, the hardening methodology or the hardening procedure is mainly to make sure your operating system is having all the best practices standard implemented, and it is following some of the procedures or policies that a particular industry like Center for Internet Security or Federal Information Processing Standard. So there are a lot of organization which provides the framework or standard to keep your system safe and secure, right? So what we generally do is we go and talk to the customer. We understand what is their choice of standard bodies that they need to follow, whether they need to follow FISMA, like Federal Information Security Management Act, or whether they want to follow FIPS, or whether they want to follow ITAR. Different organization in the US and Europe, they might want us to follow different organization security standards. So based on their need, we will go and get the standards download. For example, I showed you how to download the framework or baseline from Center for Internet Security, right? So once after we download it, what we generally do is we put together all the different configurations inside a particular file. For example, let me see, we put together all the settings from CAS. And for example, if you want to have some password that can be stored for 24 times, or what exactly their standard says, and what is the default setting that comes along with Microsoft Windows on a particular operating system, and what is the Microsoft recommendation for these settings, and what exactly the organization, the service provider like IBM or HP or TCS, what they are recommending for that specific setting. So we generally do some brainstorming and we derive what can be implemented in the particular operating system. So that is what we will go and confirm. And once after it is done, different organization might use different tools to capture the image. So they might use technologies like MDT, or they might use tools like Nessus to do some scanning and make sure the system is free from vulnerabilities, and they might go and create the image. Some organization might use ImageX, or they might use there are a lot of tools available, and they will be creating the image or master image or gold image after they do all the hardening on the operating system. So first thing is they need to create a baseline. They need to create what kind of setting they are going to do for each and every policy, either through group policy or centralized active directory, or if they want to push it through some different mechanisms, they can define the pre-hardening checklist. They can do the assessment and define what exactly they are going to do. So once after they derive the final plan, they will go and apply it to the system, and they run it against some kind of quality checks. See, for example, they will go and run a kind of tool like Qualys or Nessus. They will use some security scan tool to check whether there are some more vulnerabilities in your image. If the Qualys says like your image is compliant 100% or 95% or whatever, based on your organization security officer standard, you can go and move on to the next step. The next step is to get the approval from the cybersecurity team. So cybersecurity team will do their own checks, and they will say, okay, it's all good, and you can go and use it for your customer environment. So it can be created by specific customers, or it can be done for overall the service provider organization also. So a lot of organizations follow different mechanism. They will take inputs from one of these standard, and they will take baseline from Microsoft or Red Hat or whoever is providing it, and they will also take input from the other agencies which the organization would like to follow. Most of the US government organization, they would ask us to follow National Security Agency. They will also ask us to follow ITAR. They will also ask us to follow Center for Internet Security. So we need to be compliant to all these standards, and we have to create an image in such a way that it follows all the best practices from these organizations. So that's the thing, we call it as hardening. Okay, so after we do all those things in your operating system, then we go and capture the image, right? So let's do one thing. So let me just close this. I'll just go and create something or make some configuration changes. See, you guys are understanding, right? So if I go and want to make
Stanley, I
changes on
have
the
one
policy,
question.
yeah.
I have created the hardening images, right? I have implemented 100 VMs. So after some time, I want to change one particular security purpose, added a new compliance. So how do you implement for the 100 VMs? Is there any script we have to do that?
No, no script needed. Microsoft provides you a default option through the console itself, how to refresh the images. There is an option to refresh all the systems and the images as well. So what they will do is they will go and refresh the base image, and they will start creating one by one VMs and decommission the older VMs. So they will do it in a kind of phased way so that the application does not go down and all the VMs are getting refreshed. There is a way to do that, Kanagraj. There is an option within the console. I'll show you that.
Okay.
So these
Sure.
are the
Yeah.
things that
Thank
I
you.
was showing. Okay, so there are hundreds of policy in your system. So you need to go and derive which policy is better for your organization. So what policy that CAS recommends, what policy that Microsoft gives you default. So these are the things that we are talking about here. So we need to finalize on a particular policy which can be used for all these settings. Okay, there are hundreds and hundreds of policy. So if you go and download the CAS document, it will give you clear details on what exactly we need to implement on a particular operating system version and so on. See, for example, I can go and download 2020-19 operating system details, and so it is also having STIG benchmark also. See, some images might also follow two different things. It might also have security technical implementation guide sticks as well as Center for Internet Security. So if you look at the image that I'm going to download, it covers both CAS and STIG benchmark, which is very good actually. So, but again, it's not that you have to go and implement the same for all the organization. It all has to be decided by the security officer and the customer team, not you. Okay, you have to just follow their instructions. So I'll just open it and I'll show you that file. So it will have information about each and every different settings that an operating system has got. See, if I want to go and look at the enforce password history, it says 24 is the recommended standard. Similarly, if you go and look at each and everything, it will use different standards for different role of the server. Okay, so this is the recommended setting that that they are giving. Similarly, if you go and check the other settings for minimum password age, they will give you what exactly is the recommended setting. So you need to put together into an Excel sheet or a kind of tracker where you can compare against the default Microsoft standard and your organization standard, and you can implement it on the actual server by logging in. Once you have done all those things, just for example, if I want to change this to 25 or 24, generally you should increase it, you should not reduce it. Some organization might want to kind of alleviate it, they might change it. So you can actually give some whatever standard you would like to, and so you will install the roles, you will configure all the policy standards, and then you will go and take the image of the server. Okay, so let me go and check what exact the installation is done, right? So just for an example, I'm just going and changing the default homepage of the web server. Okay, I will say Azure. Okay, I'll just give it some name, and we will close it. Okay, so Azure. Okay, just for identification, I'm just adding it Azure with stand, something like that. Okay. Okay, so let's done. You're done. Okay, I'm just saving this. So after installing some role, or if you want to allow specific traffic to this VM, then comes the security group. Okay, security group is the first thing you need to go and check whether we have allowed the required traffic to that VM. Okay, so security group is a kind of firewall at the Azure platform level to restrict traffic that comes to your network, or it comes to your operating system and so on. In AWS, we have got different concept. For example, in AWS, they've got security group, which applies, which acts as the firewall at the VM level or at the load balancer level and so on. And there is something called network access control list called NACL. Okay, that is done at the network or subnet level. Okay, this is in AWS, not in Azure. Okay, but in Azure, we have both of these two things combined together into something called network security group, which can secure the traffic at the network level for VMs or subnets or whatever, right? So it can be used for all different resources. So here, if you want to specifically allow traffic to this VM on port 80 or 443, I have to go and check the networking and check what kind of network security group is attached. So as of now, if you go and check the effective security rules, it is allowing only traffic on port number 3389. Okay, let's see that. Okay, it's taking some time. Maybe like in the interest of time, I can just go back here. You can see that we have allowed only port 3389 from the internet. And if I go and connect to 80 port, it will not allow us. So if you want to allow inbound traffic for port number 80, you have to go and say add inbound port, and you can give what service you want to allow, whether it is HTTP service. HTTP, if I select it, automatically the number will change to 80 port, and you can go and give priority to that. So lower the priority, higher the precedence. For example, if you have two rules defined, the rule which has got the lowest priority will have highest precedence. Whatever the next rule will not be taking precedence there. Okay, so I'm allowing port 80 here. So the lower the priority number, higher the precedence. Okay, lower the priority number, higher the precedence. Okay, it will take more precedence there. So now we have allowed 80 port. Now I can go and check the traffic on that particular public IP using 80 port. So it can go and connect to that system on port number 80 now. Okay, so I should be able to see that file which we created, right? Azure with Stan on that particular server. Now we have a server which has got some role installed. It has got some policies defined. It has got some folders created. Now we can go and capture the image. So before going and capturing the image, generally what we do is we go and generalize the server. When I say generalize the server will have a lot of unique identifier, right? So when I say unique identifier, the MAC address is unique to a specific network card. And similarly, this machine will have its own unique ID, hostname ID, and it will also have its own security identifiers for the different accounts that we have got. So before taking the image, generally what we need to do is we need to prepare the server to eliminate those unique identifiers. Okay, it can be MAC address, or it can be your server name, or it can be your IP address. So it has to go and clear the unique identifiers. How we can do it? There is a tool from Microsoft called Sysprep, which you can use it for generalizing the VM. Okay, so generalizing the server, you can go and run that Sysprep utility. So the Sysprep utility is generally under, you can just go and type Sysprep under run. It will open up the Sysprep folder. And within that, you have the Sysprep exe file here. And if you want to run that from within that location, you can open up the command prompt and you can say sysprep/generalize. Okay, it will go and generalize the machine, and it will prepare the VM to have hardware independence. So it will go and clean up the IDs to make the system out of experience, meaning it will go and clean up all the unique identifiers. It will not be usable after this particular cleanup is done. So I'll just go and say generalize this VM and reboot it. Okay, system preparation tool. So this is the tool used for preparing the machine to have hardware independence and remove the unique identifiers. Okay, so system preparation utility or tool to bring hardware independence and remove uniqueness. Okay, now we are generalizing it. Okay, let me go and do it. Okay, let me select it, and it is going to clean up all the different plugins and so on, and it will clean up the VM. Okay, so let's wait for a minute.
Stan, if you create, yeah.
Stan sir, this is the purpose of taking the image, or is there any specific reason why we are going to?
It's a prerequisite to create an image. Okay, see, before doing anything on your operating system, we need to go and remove the uniqueness. So for example, on Linux, on Windows Server, we use Sysprep utility to prepare the image for doing it. Similarly, if it is a Linux server, we have something called VIRT package, VIRT-Sysprep package, that you can run it on your Linux server like Red Hat or different flavors, and you can reset. It is going to reset, or it is going to unconfigure some specific settings on a guest operating system. Okay, this is to prepare before taking the image. This is not taking image. This is a prerequisite. This is a preparation activity.
Yes, and once we create another machine with the image, after that it will be unique ID will be appear, right?
Generated, correct. So it will create a uniqueness, or it will start generating unique IDs when the new VM is created out of the image. True, that is correct. Okay, so it is actually going and scrubbing the conflicting things. For example, you cannot have the same host name for multiple VMs, right? Similarly, you cannot have the same MAC address for multiple NIC card. You cannot have the same IP address for multiple machines. So this is going and removing those uniqueness to avoid conflict. Why we need to generalize it? To avoid conflict with using the same IDs on different servers.
Yeah, normally we have to do for the VMware level for the templates.
Correct. Right. So I think this is now done. It's still processing. It will restart. Once it is done, the next step you need to go and do is you have to go and select the capture image in this screen. So if I go here, there is an option. This is the option which you need to select for creating the image, for capturing the image. If I go and click capture image, it will create a image out of it. So this can be shared for creating subsequent systems. Okay, so yeah. Okay.
So whenever we are going to create an image out of VM we created, we need to run this system preparation tool so that we can get unique VMs out of that image.
Correct. That is true. So if you look at here, if I go and capture this image, it is asking me that the image that we have generalized now, it will not be usable. See, because we have removed all the uniqueness. That machine will not have the host name or IP address, or we have removed all the uniqueness from that system, all the IDs and so on. So now that machine has become unusable. You can go and delete this virtual machine after creating the image, because like that virtual machine is already unusable or not usable, right? And if you want to share this image to the gallery, then you can see that machine is restarted now. That's fine. Okay, so you can also share it to the Azure Compute Gallery so that you can reuse this for future deployment. And there are two options. Okay, you can actually okay, let's capture the image for now, and I'll show you how to share it in the gallery and use it for further usage. There is one another option where you can actually go and enable zone resiliency. If you are enabling this option, you will be able to create virtual machines in multiple data center. So while capturing the image, there are three things that you need to be aware of. So before capturing image, you are right, we need to generalize it. Okay, that is a prerequisite.
Prabhu speaking.
Yes, Prabhu.
In my organization, that after creation of the VM by using that existing image, then only we have to run the Sysprep tool. After that, assign the host name, IP address, whatever it is, that mandatory. Then we will bring to that the production network. So
yeah,
which one is better that before deploying the VM to run the Sysprep tool, or after creating a VM we can run that Sysprep tool?
So see, if you look at here, if you are doing it or not doing it, automatically this particular system is asking us, right? Before creating an image, you generalize to prepare the Windows guest OS on the operating system. So this is the best practice standard that Microsoft is recommending. But whatever the organization that you're working for is following is okay, but there is a risk associated with that. The risk I'm highlighting is, for example, if someone have not run the Sysprep properly after creating the VM, there are chances that it might create conflict in the network. Okay, so it's okay. I mean, not that you cannot do that. I mean, a lot of organizations are doing it, but there is a risk associated. If the person who was doing it did not follow the proper procedure, or he missed to run it, then there are chances it might go and end up in conflict with other machines in the network. So Microsoft is recommending to generalize it before you take the image. That's the best practice that they are doing it. See, if they are saying if you create an image from a virtual machine that hasn't been generalized, then what they're saying, any virtual machines created from the image, it will not start in the Azure platform. Okay, so that's the important thing. Okay, so I'll just give it a name. Okay, I can just give some name. Okay, since Prabhu has opened his mouth, I'll say Prabhu web server. Okay, so web server image, I'll just give that name. And as I said, okay, let me just go and select some other resource group. Okay, you can also share the image in the gallery. Like for example, in VMware concept, you have content library, right? Where you can go and store the templates or images in a content library, and you can use it across the vCenter. Like you can have the global content library. Similarly, we can share the image in the gallery to be used by different users or whoever is logging into the Azure portal. They can use this particular image. I'll show you that. But now let's capture the image only. And the good option that we have got is you can capture the image with zone resiliency, meaning the image that you are capturing can be used in deploying VMs, can be used in deploying the VMs across the zones, across the data centers. Okay, so share image, that's fine. So I'm just going to create the image. So automatically it is going to stop the VM. See, you need not have the VM stopped before it, but it's okay if you go and stop the VM. It's okay that you can have it. So the resource group by visible all zones and data. Yeah, resource group is visible for you. It's a global thing, right? Like your S3 in AWS resource group and all. It's visible. Like it's like little different from how you compare with AWS. AWS, you get access to specific regional portal. Okay, and you have the common portal in the East US, but you have access to specific region and you have to look at the resources. Here in Azure, the way that they have created the look and feel, it's little different, right? So you can see all the resources groups from different regions and so on in one single pane of glass. So see, now you can see that it is also validating whether the image is already generalized. Okay, only if it sees it, it will say successfully generalized the virtual machine. So it happens automatically. There are 3 different steps. It happens here. So if you look at here, it stopped the VM. It went and checked this generalization, and then it is creating the image. So there are 3 steps involved. Automatically, it will happen when you go and click on capture image. So when you do capture image, it will go and stop the VM. It will go and check the generalization, and it will go and create the image. There are 3 steps. Okay, so now the old VM is also getting deleted because we have selected the option to delete the old VM, right? So we said we don't want the old VM. So delete the VM after successful image creation. We have selected that option. So it has also deleted the VM. If you look at here, it went ahead and deleted the old VM. Okay, now we have the image through which you can go and redeploy or you can create some resources. Okay, I can go to the resource and I can look at the image. I can create a VM from here, or also I can clone a new VM image and I can have it for some kind of testing, or if I want to modify something, I can clone the existing VM image and you can do something. Okay, after you created the image, after the image is created, you can either go and create a VM using that image, or you can clone to a new VM image. And if you want to make modification, you can modify this image and you can make that as a master image. So now either you can go and create the VM here itself, or you can go to your regular console, like your virtual machine console. And when you create the VM, under the images section, you have the option to go and select it. So you go and select see all images. Under that, you have the option called my images. Okay, so my images is my own images that I have created. You can go and select your own images. So Prabhu web server image is something which we created just now, right? And if someone has created and shared it with you, it will be available under shared images. If it is available from the marketplace, then it will be under the different category here. So there are 3 categories where your image will be under the my items or images category. And if someone has shared it with you, it will be under the shared images. If it's a third party vendor who has created it and published it, it will be in the marketplace. There are 3 locations. So some people call this as community AMIs in AWS, and some people call it as marketplace or open AMIs. Okay, that's fine. So okay, AMI is a term used in Amazon machine image. Even you can use it in Azure also. You can call it as Azure machine image. Okay, anyway, so here I'm going to select this image here, and this image will be selected for creating the new VM now. Okay, I can just go and say I want to select this particular system and give it a name. I will say this is Prabhu web server 1. Okay, and I can just go and see, this is one another important thing. So whichever location the image is present, only in that region we can create the server. Okay, so this image and region are tied together. Okay, so if you want to create something in another region, you have to clone the new VM image to that other region and you have to use it there. Okay, image and region are tied together, so you can use it only within a specific region, but you can create it across data centers. Okay, so if you want to create it in data center 1 or data center 2 or stuff, that is possible. Okay, but you can be creating the VMs only in this one, what we call the same region as that of the image. Okay, now I can go and give it a name. So in most of the cases, the credential might also be there. Okay, the username and password might also be present. But if you want to do changes at that level also, you can actually go and do something called, let me tell you that. Let me go and review and create it. So there is an option called specialized images. In specialized images category, you can go and create your own numbering, username and password and all those things. So there are two options. One is called generalized image. The other one is called specialized image. You can even go further and do some more changes. Okay, so that option is available when you go and capture the image. I'll show you that. Okay, let's complete this. Now we are creating a new virtual machine using the image that we just created. Okay, let this go and get created and let the deployment get started. Okay, if I go back here, if I go to the images option, okay, so you can manage everything independently. So that's the biggest advantage of Azure or any cloud platform. See, if I look at here, you can go and manage the images separately. Or if I want to go and create a new image, I can go and create a new image, whatever I want. So under this option, you have these options like, let me show you that. Okay, so zone resiliency, VM generation, this is all fine. I'll just go close this. I'll show you in the other console only. If I go to this VM, for an example, if I want to capture it, it gives me two options, generalized images or specialized images. So specialized images are completely giving you option to give some host name and admin user. So it will automatically pick up all those things. Okay, specializing means you are going and fine tuning even further. It will automatically pick up its own host name numbering, and it will also give the default username and password. You don't have to enter that also. It will be much quicker for deployment. Okay, in specialized images, even these things can be added along with your image. You can give the host name with some generic prefix, and it will add numbers automatically, and it will also pick up the default admin and password. So let's quickly see if this is getting completed. And we are around 10:35, right? Okay, yeah, let's get this closed. So any questions from anyone so far on availability set, availability zone, or image?
In the image side, actually,
Yeah.
if we do this generalized or specialist image, do we still have option to reset the password? Those kind of
Yeah.
administration
All those options are still still
still
available.
available.
Yes.
Okay.
But do you guys remember what happens when I go and do it? Whether there is any changes happening inside the operating system?
It
You're
won't be
removing
allowed.
the unique identifiers.
No. What I told yesterday
It's
is
not
that
able to visit it. Actually, it put some patches, right? That's what you said.
correct. It will go and add a plugin. It will go and add a plugin called VM Access Extension plugin, and through which it will go and reset or help you to change the settings. So there are something that happens, right? So if I go and do the reset or whatever, Microsoft goes and adds something called Microsoft Access Extension under the packages plugins option. Okay, under packages plugins, they will go and add these batch files, and they will use it for resetting or enabling or disabling whatever settings you want to. Yeah, so you have to be aware of that. So can we move VMs between availability zone to availability zone or later? Okay, so see, that's a good question, in fact, Dinesh. Okay, so what we can do is you cannot move existing systems to a new availability set. That option is not there. Okay, you cannot move an existing VM to an availability set or zone without downtime. Meaning, why I say this without downtime? So with downtime, what you can do is you can go and select the VM, create the image. After creating the image, from the image, you can create the new VM in whichever availability zone or availability set that you want. Oh my God. I don't know. Okay, good. Availability set or availability zone. There is a roundabout way. There is not a direct way of moving things into the new availability zone. So what you can do is you can use the existing VM to create an image, and using that image, you can create a new VM, and that VM can be created in whichever availability zone or set you want. That is a round way of moving into a new availability set or zone. There is no direct way of just right clicking and moving it. You got it, Dinesh? Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Okay, well, it's created. Okay, let's give it a try. Let's go and now pick up the IP address and see if it's having all the necessary web page. It's the new IP address of the new server. Perfect. Okay, so this is the IP address, public IP address of Prabhu Web Server 1. So it has brought the thing from the image. So we are just going for the tea break now for 15 minutes. So any questions before I start the timer? Do we can increase the capacity of? Yeah, we can discuss all those things when we come back. Okay, so we are yet to discuss a lot of things. So I think even today might not be enough for completing the virtual machine. So we might need one more day to complete it, but that's fine. Okay, I'll stop the recording. I'll be.
This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah, as I said, the cost. Let me mute your line. So as I said, the cost is not going to increase because of adding an availability set and so on, but you're going to definitely increase the cost for the number of virtual machines that you're running. So for these, each number of virtual machine, for 10 VMs, you will need 10 OS disk and whatever data disk, it gets multiplied, it gets added. So definitely you have to pay for these stuff. Okay. So when you go and capture the image, the image will capture all the operating system settings. Okay, it will also capture what you have done in terms of policies, configurations, right? And also it is going to capture all the application details, data, and the whatever the specific settings that you have done, right? So there are some organization which generally uses tools like, as I said, some organization might use tools like MDT, or some tools might use tools like DISM. So they will use different tools to capture the image and optimize the image. Some people will also go and do some more fine tuning, some more optimization, right? So let's see what else we can discuss quickly. Okay, so when you want to go and explore few more things, let's see what are the other things we can explore quickly. So here, moving forward, the default selection of the image will be the Prabhu image. If you want to change it, you can change it to your own images. If you want to deploy 2022 Azure Edition server, you can also select that. This is the latest Windows server, right? You can select 2022 Azure Edition, and you can also select your own size. So how do we choose the size is very important, right? So we call this as instance family or instance size or virtual machine size. So this is very important to understand if you are a solution architect or if you are a senior engineer, operations lead, you might have to be clear with this. But if you are an operations engineer, if you are a new to cloud, you can just understand what your architect has asked to choose or what your senior person has asked you to select. That is more than sufficient. But if you're able to grasp it, you can just grasp it. Okay, this is VM instance size or family that you can choose. Okay, so there are multiple different options here, and there are some categories. There are a lot of different systems that we might create. We might go and create something like systems that are having web server role, or some servers might have database server role, or some servers might be a kind of appliance, or something might be a code repository server. So we might have different servers doing different functionalities, but not all of them need the same amount of compute or same amount of storage or same amount of memory. Some systems, for example, like web server, it needs a lot of network traffic. It might need to have a lot of CPU cycle to handle a lot of incoming requests. Similarly, there are a lot of systems like database which might need more memory processing. It might need more capacity on the back end. And there might be some applications like gaming servers which might need some graphics card to render the application or do some simulation or doing some video rendering and so on. So the understanding that you should have is not all the systems will have the same requirement. Some systems might need more compute capacity, more CPU. Some systems might need more memory. Some systems might need more storage. Some systems might need some specific graphics card or high performance compute workload or high performance compute CPU to use it for their particular application. So the requirements might differ. So as an architect, as a senior engineer, you might have to go and choose the right family. Okay, so there are different instance size, instance family that are available. Here we call it as VM size. In Azure, we call instance as virtual machine. In AWS, we call it as instance, right? So if, for example, not always you will get to understand what might be needed at the beginning. Okay, since you are an administrator or since you are an operations engineer, you might not have a clarity. Even the application owner might not have a clarity which might be needed, like whether the application needs high amount of CPU or high amount of memory. Only based on the historical consumption report, or only based on their actual pattern analysis, they will be able to decide. So if you're not aware of what exactly we need, we can just go and choose the general purpose. The general purpose will have kind of balanced CPU and memory ratio. So nothing will be high or nothing will be low. Okay, it will have the balanced amount of CPU and compute ratio. So this particular general purpose, it will start with the entry level series, which starts with A series. A series is the basic minimum for the non-critical workload, or for the testing workload, for doing some proof of concept, or for doing some development and all those things. You can use this starting series system, A series. And yesterday we talked about the baseline series, B series, right? So B series can be used for some kind of baseline. And the advantage of using B series, it can be a burstable series, meaning you can go and add more capacity, or you can increase the size of the VM in a very quicker way. Okay, it is a burstable series. And generally what you can do is, use it for is, you can use it for low traffic web servers, or you can use it for small database servers, or you can use it for some small network appliances and so on. You cannot use it for high-end database servers. So if it is a database server, most of the people right, based on the server role, database servers are memory intensive servers. So definitely you know which one to choose. But if it is a very small database servers and you don't know how much it is going to consume, then you can start with the general purpose category, and we can move on to use other categories later. Okay. Okay, now, so this can be used for testing, POC, proof of concept, and development activity. And also you can have some production workload, but it can be a small production workload also. Okay, so the advantage of using this general purpose, it comes for very low cost. For example, it will start with 300 Indian rupees, or right, it's that starting price is very, very low. So how they are able to give that? The backend physical infrastructure that Azure platform provides will be a cheaper one. For example, they might go and use Intel Broadwell processes. So this is not very high cost, right? But if you're going and using, if you need more CPU power, if you need some kind of turbo boosting or hyper threading or maximum performance, then you can go and choose compute optimized. Compute optimized is a category that provides you more CPU power. It is optimized for giving you more CPU cycle. meaning they will be using a very high-end CPU on the back end. They might go and use Intel Skylake processors or something equivalent of that particular processing power. So Intel Skylake processor also gives you some options which you can enable in the BIOS. You can go and enable turbo boosting. You can go and enable I mean, it's not you. Microsoft is going and enabling these options. Okay, they will enable hyper-threading. They will enable turbo boosting so that you get more compute cycles. You get much better performance. You get the maximum performance enabled on the BIOS so that the processor will be able to give you the maximum CPU cycle. Okay, this is mainly compute optimized is mainly used for some of the network appliances. Network appliances will consume a lot of CPUs. It will need to process a lot of network level traffic, and in turn it also needs to have more compute power, more CPU power to process all those things. Similarly, if you want to run some batch jobs, or if you want to run some scheduled jobs, or if you want to do some kind of continuous processing, then you need more CPU to process that. So for those application servers, you can also use it. So if there is an application server that needs a lot of compute CPU cycles, you can go and choose those VM as part of the compute optimized. Similarly, like the medium sized web server or database server, you can also use it in compute optimized. This is medium traffic, not very high and not very low. Medium ones can be managed using compute optimized. So with compute optimized, with the name itself, you are able to understand that it will have more CPU power or more CPU ratio against each of the memory that we are provisioning. Okay, I'll tell you, see, for example, when you go and purchase a laptop or when you go and assemble a desktop, you know that you will have only one processor or two processor, but the memory might be more. Even if you're purchasing a mobile, you know that, right? So you will have more memory compared to your CPU that is present. So CPU will not be always high. CPU will be very less in the ratio, but if it is compute optimized, the ratio that we are talking about will be little higher. So I'll show you in this console so that you understand it better. Let me go and show you all the sizes here. So if I go and filter it by the compute optimized, okay, let me group by the series. Okay, and if I scroll down, okay, so these are the general purpose one. F series are the compute optimized ones. So if I look at here, for just 4 GB of RAM, they are giving us 2 CPU. For just 8 GB of RAM, they are giving you 4 CPUs. For 16 GB of RAM, they are giving you 8 virtual CPU, meaning they are giving you very good ratio there. For example, if you go to the opposite of that, for example, if I go and check the E series, which is memory optimized series, see, for 64 GB of RAM, they are giving only 4 virtual CPU, meaning the ratio is very, very less. For the memory optimized, the memory ratio will be high. For one CPU, they are giving 8 GB memory. For 2 CPU, they are giving 16 GB of memory. So the ratio will be higher. So CPU will never be higher than the memory, but the ratio is what we are talking about. Okay, in memory optimized, the memory ratio will be high. In CPU optimized, the ratio will be higher for the CPU. With 8 GB of memory, you will have 4 CPU or maybe closer to that. Okay, so more memory ratio against each CPU. Okay, each CPU will have more memory there in memory optimized. Okay, so these systems, memory optimized systems, as I said, this one comes with F series, this one comes with E series. Okay, and this is mainly used for relational database servers and the RDS, right? Like Microsoft SQL or MySQL or Oracle servers will be generally consuming more memory, and even the SAP HANA systems or Hackathon systems or NetWeaver application systems. So SAP related systems can be running on memory optimized, whether it is an application server or a database server, you can prefer to run it on memory optimized. Similarly, you can use any data lake servers which needs a lot of memory to process the workload. For SQL Hackathon, or like there are a lot of workloads which needs memory, more memory. Okay, so you can go and use it. Especially for SAP, I can just give you one hint here. So for SAP systems, you can go and use a different hardware, because like some organization, they are looking for SAP certified series. So there is a series called M series, which can be used for SAP systems. This is a SAP certified series. So SAP as an organization, they have certified this hardware to be suitable for running the SAP workload. So if you are planning to run the SAP workload, go for a M series workload. So that will be giving much better uh, uh, processing, and it is also compliant. So at the end, the memory optimized will also provide you large caching. So it will give you a lot of caching on the system level. So it gives you a quicker processing. So the contents which needs to be processed can be cached, and it can be processed beautifully. So here, in order to provide you for lesser cost, because memory costs you more, right? In order to balance the cost or kind of optimize the cost, they generally go and use Intel Broadwell processor in memory optimized. Whereas in compute optimized, they will be using Intel Skylake, which is costlier, and it also gives you the maximum performance that is possible. And for example, this cost might start around 2,200 rupees, which is very closer to, which is the reason behind is we are using a very high cost processor here. It's a costly processor. So the pricing will be according to what backend infrastructure we are using, right? Similarly, we can go and choose the other workload. For example, you can go and choose storage optimized for workload which needs more storage capacity and more storage processing. For example, data warehouse servers where you need a lot of storage. Similarly, for big data servers, for NoSQL database servers. So these things need more storage capacity, rather than what we call the compute or memory. Even those these are needed, but not at a very high level like how the storage is needed. So with storage optimized, you are going to get very high IOPS, so that you can transmit a lot of input output per second. You can have a lot of data processing happening, and the data can be accessed very quickly. It is less latency, and you also get very high throughput in storage optimized, because they are going to use some kind of technology like SSD disk or NVMe disk to get you much better performance and output operations per second. So this series is called L series VM. L series is mainly for storage optimized. Similarly, on the other side of it, for processor, they might use AMD processor. Okay, AMD EPY TCM or EPY CTM will be used. So it is very, very cheaper. Okay, so just to, sorry, what happens here? EPY. Okay. Okay, I think there is alignment issue. Okay, fine. So this one is very costly. Okay, it can be up to 15,000 rupees per month. The reason is we are using what we call very high costly storage disks here. We are using NVMe disk or SSD disk, so it is going to charge you more. And the next category is graphics optimized. From the name itself, you might have got it, right? So this is mainly for application that needs graphics. For example, if you are going and creating a gaming application, or if you're going and creating a simulation application, for example, if there is a video broadcasting that is happening from the Prime Minister, or some overall global video rendering is happening, so that application can be it needs more graphics power to live stream it, or to do any kind of live streaming, or to live stream the cricket match, or to do some kind of deep learning. All those things, you need a lot of graphics power. So graphics rendering is needed. So we generally use what we call Nvidia Card. Okay, Nvidia Card is one of the famous card, and also we have NC Card, which can also be used. And based on that usage of the graphics card, we have the series here, NV series or whatever series here. So here we are talking about graphics card. Okay, that is going to cost you more. So this pricing will start around 30,000 Indian rupees. So it is very costly because of the additional hardware or the graphics card that we are using. And there are categories, there are applications which might need even better performance in terms of compute. We call it as high performance compute servers. In the on-premises data center, we have something like Apache Spark servers, or we have something like what we call the MPI systems, right? The super computers, or they call it as grid computers, and so on. So these are all very powerful systems. Okay, these are all used for very business critical manufacturing industry or some of the MPI application or financial marketing application, they might be running on these systems, the supercomputers or the very fast computers. Okay, so for high performance compute, we need fastest and powerful CPUs. Okay, so here what they will use it, they will go and use Intel Haswell processor. This is the most powerful processor that is available, and they will be using Intel Haswell. And also in supercomputers and Apache Spark kind of machine, they also have some technology called RDMA technology, relative direct memory access technology, which can help you access the content in a much quicker way. Okay, let me put it here. And this is mainly for example, if you want to do some weather simulation, these days you are getting some application in your mobile, right? It will simulate how the weather is going to react in the near future. So for that kind of simulation or that kind of pattern to show you in an application or mobile, it needs a lot of processing on the back end. It needs a lot of compute power. Okay, so if you want to just understand the seismic modeling, or if you want to use it in a kind of chemical lab, okay, or any kind of laboratories, or if you want to use it for some protein folding, or if you want to use it for some kind of virus modulation, or if you want to create, I mean, there are a lot of labs and a lot of manufacturing locations where you might need these kind of powerful systems. We call it as supercomputers or grid computers, which is mainly used in the industry or in the remote location. So even that is now available through Azure as a kind of option. You can also go and create systems which need such kind of high performance compute. And there is a last category called confidential compute. This is mainly for systems that needs their data to be highly confidential. Okay, this is mainly for companies like financial and healthcare. They will look for these systems. They want everything to be encrypted, even the BIOS and everything should be safe and secure. So this is mainly for financial and healthcare organization. So what exactly Microsoft does on the backend, they go and enable trusted platform module on the BIOS, and they will be enabling trusted execution environment in the BIOS. So these are the two things that they do, and with which you will be able to achieve better security at the hardware level. Trusted execution environment. Okay, so any questions from anyone on how to choose the VM size or how to choose the VM category? So based on the application requirement, based on the processing requirement, based on the speed, or based on the category, you can go and choose which VM size or which VM type is suitable for you. Is my audio okay? Can one of you confirm, please?
It's clear.
Yeah, sir.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Yes, sir. Your audio okay only, sir.
Okay, thank you for confirming. Okay, so the interesting thing that you need to understand, see, for example, if I go and select this, I can say that I'm creating a memory optimized VM 1. Okay, and the important thing that you need to understand that when you go and change the VM size, or if you want to have, let me tell you. Okay, just for an example, I'm creating something here just for demo. Okay, let it create. I'm creating a memory optimized server. This is only 9 Indian rupees per hour. Okay, so let it get deployed. So few things you need to understand clearly here. So when I want to change something, for example, in your on-premises, you can go and change CPU separately, you can go and change memory separately, or you can add more storage or whatever, network card. So those things are possible in on-premises. But in the cloud, Microsoft and Amazon and every cloud provider, they have a rationale in how they define it. Okay, for example, if they have some 2 CPU and 8 GB of RAM and 4 network card, so if you want to increase something, there are chances that you might have to increase the other component also. Okay, for example, if I want to increase 16 CPU, 16 GB of memory, sometimes it might not come with 2 CPU of RAM, I mean 2 virtual CPU. You might have to increase the CPU also. Whether you need it or not need it, you have to go with the rationale that the cloud provider has given. It's a good practice, in fact, because see, if you are changing only one area, in the future you might get some performance issue. So it's always better to go with the cloud rationale or cloud provider standard. So that is the one of the advantage and disadvantage. Okay, cloud provider has defined the standards and rationale on how the resources are aligned or how the resources are kept in a specific ratio. And see, if I look at here, let me take one of the VM. Let's take the Sunday Windows VM1. So now it is currently in standard D4S D4S V3, right? If I want to change the size, I can go to size here, and currently it is in this size. And if I want to change it within general purpose, the downtime that is needed is very, very less, because it is not going to move out of the hardware, or most of the cases it will be provision the additional resource that you are looking for. For example, if you want to reduce it to 14 GB, or if you want to reduce it to 8 GB, even the other CPU and the net data disk will also get reduced. So sometimes if you want more than 4 data disks, then you have to go and choose these options only. So there is a rationale on how you have to choose it. So sometimes you might not get the exact thing. For example, if you need 18 GB of RAM, that might not be available. You might have to go and choose the nearest one. So there are some goods and bad, there are some pros and cons, but what I'm trying to cover is, for example, if I want to change it within the general purpose instance family, mostly the downtime that is needed is very, very less, but definitely downtime is needed. So downtime needed when you change the size within the family, for example, general purpose to general purpose, other general purpose category, the downtime is less. Okay, but if you are changing it from one time or one category to another category, it has to move the hardware, it has to move to a different hardware, because we are not using the same hardware here, right? If you look at here, this one is running Intel Skylake processor, different Azure hardware. This is a different Azure hardware, so it has to move the VM from one hardware to another hardware. Sometimes it has to get some kind of buffering is there and all those things. So when you change, what's this, when you change between family, downtime is higher. Okay, it might take up to 20 minutes or sometime 15 to 20 minutes. So you have to plan the change request in order in such a way that you are accommodating the time that is needed to make the conversion. But you can change it. See, for example, as of now, I'm using 4 CPU and 16 GB of RAM. For cost reduction, I can go and change it to 4 CPU and 14 GB of RAM. But if the virtual machine is already running, changing its size, it will definitely restart the VM. Okay, so you have to make sure that you convey this. You need to have a definite change request, so the pricing will change, and also the downtime is needed for resizing it. So there is a downtime when you do the resizing. Resizing needs downtime because it is going to restart the VM. Any question from anyone? There is someone who is not on mute.
Yeah, Stan, hard swap is not available for this feature in this Azure for the VMs.
Sorry,
Hot add swap for the resource.
Okay, see, that's what I told you, right? In with VMware concept, you have all those things. For example, if you want to hot add some CPU or hot plug some CPU or add some network card or VMs, you can go and do individually. Meaning, you can go and change the CPU separately. You can go and change memory separately. That kind of facility is not available in the provider hardware. I mean, the provider's platform. So there are options. For example, if you are running VMware on Azure, you have the option to use that features and functionalities. But if you are using the default Hyper-V Hyper-V virtualization platform, then you don't have that option as on date. You cannot go and individually handle it. So you have to definitely take a downtime to do it. Even though the Hyper-V latest generation supports it, you still need to take downtime to do it, especially for the CPU and memory. But for adding more disk or size and all those things, there is no downtime needed. Okay, disk changes or increasing, decreasing, that does not need any changes. Only if you are going and changing the instance size, then you need to take downtime.
Or disk family, Stalin, like ST3, ST4, like there is
Okay,
no.
between family, right? Okay, I will come to that a little later. Yeah, we'll see that. Yeah. So now you can see that the machine might have got refreshed. Now you can go and do a refresh here. Okay, now it has got changed to 14 GB of memory, and you can actually go and connect, and you can verify whether the changes has got reflected. Okay, so you can change the system from one family to another family and other way around but it needs some downtime. So you have to go to size and you can select the resize and change it. Okay, so not all the families can be converted into different families. See, for example, some of them might not be enabled here. Okay, so let me try to change it to certain option. So you have a lot of wide range of options here. Okay, so it is showing us whether we are enhancing or whether we are doing like to like. So all those things. So always go for latest generation. Okay, so always go for latest generation, so you get the better performance. Some people have this wrong understanding. Going to latest generation or going to older generation will cost you less. No, it is not the case. Okay, going to latest generation is the best practice unless your application has some dependency with the older generation compute or graphics or whatever. Or going to the latest generation is always the best practice. It will be cheaper as well. Okay, so some people will think going to the old model or old generation will be cheaper. No, maybe the initial purchasing price might be cheaper. Think about the maintenance and management of those things, right? Even if you think about purchasing a car, you can purchase the car for a lower price. We don't know what exact problems it has got. Yeah, you might have to spend more cost in doing some maintenance, changes, altering, and all those things. So always, I mean, either it is manufacturing or IT industry, go for the latest generation so that you get all the parts will be available readily. Okay, if you're going for older generation, the parts and the replacement might take more time. Okay, even the downtime might be little higher. So go for the latest generation, even in IT also, so that you get the best performance as well as the cheaper cost. Okay. Okay, what else? Okay, now.
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
Stan, sir. So the
Yes,
hot
Giri.
plug is available only for in Azure also for the storage and network. CPU and memory increase would definitely require a downtime.
Even
You can't straight
network,
away.
it needs downtime. Only storage as of now, it has an option. See, for example, I've got a networking option here. If I want to attach more network interface, I need to take downtime. See, there are two things, right? So when I want to have more network card, first thing I need to check. Okay, let me add a new tab here. Okay, so network interface. So network interface is network interface card, which allows you to give connection to different virtual LANs or virtual locations. So even network card, if you want to add network card, you need to first create network interface. Creating network interface, it's like it's a separate activity. Okay, so you don't need to take downtime and do this. So when you want to attach a network interface, you can be prepared by creating a network interface and you can keep it handy. Okay, and attaching network interface is actually needs downtime. This is like attaching the NIC card to the actual VM. Okay, this needs downtime. Okay, so what you can do is, if you are planning for adding more network interface, create the network interface and keep it handy so that the downtime that you need, 2 minutes or 3 minutes, will be enough. Okay, so this needs downtime. Okay, I'll show you how to do that. And before that, we need to check something. So for example, for this Sun VM1, the current instance size is currently what? It's currently what we selected, this one, right? DS3 version 2. So this DS3 version 2, sometimes you might get the details all of all the filters here itself. Let me see if I'm able to select the network card here. If I'm not getting the network card, then I might have to go and check in the internet what number of network card that this particular series is going to allow. I can just click on this, or I can just copy this. I can go to learn more about VM sizes, and I can go and check it on this particular link. I can go and search for that particular category, or else let's go to Google. Google search is the quickest one to reach us. Okay, so this one. So Azure VM. Okay, if you look at here, this particular model, let's see. It gives us how many network card and network bandwidth is what we are going to quickly check. It takes some time. DS3 version 2. It is taking us to pricing, huh? Okay. No, this is not the site. Okay, but let me check if okay, they're not giving the network card here. I'll tell you where exactly. Azure VM size documentation. DS3. DS. We have chosen an option which is not very openly visible. DS version 3. See, if I go to the document, you will have an option where you can see how many number of maximum network card it can support. If you look at here, this particular D11 series, it supports only maximum of 2 network card. If I want to have more network card, then I have to upgrade it to the next family. See, even that is important. So there are a lot of cases where you might have to go and do the changes to support the other family, right? Let's see, so DS. I think DS should support, let's see, DS should support us. DS version 3, yeah, at last we found it. Okay, so here you can go and check what exactly the number of network card. So the maximum network card is 2, not this one, DS version 3. One second, guys, sorry about it. They're not giving us direct information. So see, let's do one thing. So if I go and add more network interface, you'll get to understand the error. So you can go and check the document before you create the change request. This is very, very important because some people will go and create the change request before doing some kind of due diligence check. Meaning that VM instance, whatever you are planning to upgrade to, might not give you the enough network interface card. But still fine, Giri. Okay, I need to show that. So before attaching the network interface card, I can go and create the network interface card and keep it ready. You can keep it ready. For example, I can say for Sunday Windows VM1, this is the network card 2. Okay, so let me just say it's like this. I will say Sunday VM1 network card 2. Okay, so you need to create the network card in the same location as that of the VM. Okay, so you have to be very careful. Okay, so prepare, we cannot create a network card in a different region and attach it in different region. It has to be in the same region and in fact data center. So Sunday Win VM1 is in East US 2. So you have to create the network card in East US 2 only. Okay, and here is where you can give static IP or dynamic IP. So by default, whatever virtual machines you are creating, it is getting a dynamic IP by default. If you look at here, 10.3.0.4, it's a dynamic IP that it automatically got from the virtual network. But if I want some fancy numbers or if I want to assign some specific numbers, I can go and say I want 33 or 22 or whatever you want. Okay, you can also go and, okay, it says malformed IP address. Okay, I will say I need 10. Okay, which location? 10.3.0. Right? Yeah. Okay, what is the network range? Let me go and check this. RG Jan
Regionally, they are
compute.
following some sort of subnet thing, right? For region
Correct. True. Yes. Yeah. True. So let me go to virtual network and check the RG Jan compute. So here the address space is 10.3.0.0 up to, okay, it should allow us. Okay, so 10.3.0.20. Okay, it should allow us. Yeah. So, and I can say review and create. So you can also assign a static IP. That's the thing I want to convey. You can also attach any existing network security group. For example, if I want to attach the existing security group, I can also attach it. Okay, if I want to assign an IP version 6, I can also do that. So you have the option to go between static IP and dynamic IP. If you want to have some fancy numbers, or if you want to give some specific IP address which does not change whether the VM is down or up for a longer time, then you can go for static IP address. Generally, for some of the servers, for example, if you are buying some certificate or you are buying some SSL certificate, or if you want to bind to some certain things, you can go and assign static IP. So now we have created an additional network interface. Now what I will do is I'll also try and create one more. Sorry, I'll try and create one more. Okay, let me go and do it here. I'll say Sunday VM1 NIC3. Okay, just for testing purpose, I'm just going to do it. Okay, let me review and create it. So I'm thinking that this particular model will allow only 2 network cards, and if in case I need more, I have to change the family if it doesn't support it. So you have to do some checks before you go and create the change request. Don't go and create the change request before validating all these things. Okay, some family will support 2, some family will support 4. So the virtual network is what you predefine, like subnet. Yeah, we'll come to that. Networking, it's like 3-4 days. We are going to discuss minimum 4 days plus 1 day security. So we are going to spend a lot of time there. So just understand what we are trying to do at the VM level for now. So I can go to the VM here. If I want to attach more network card, okay, I have to take the VM down. Without that, this option will be grayed out. So I'll have to go and stop the VM. So if you want to reserve the public IP address, this IP address will be lost if the VM is stopped. Okay, if you want to reserve that, you can also do that. You can click on this reserve and you can say okay. So the public IP address will be saved for future purpose. And if you are reserving that public IP address, yesterday there was a question, right? So even if you have stopped the VM, you have to pay for this reserved public IP address. Okay, so meaning that IP address will not be assigned to any other VM when this VM is kept turned off or kept powered off. This IP address will remain static for this server. Okay, if you are reserving it, then you have to pay for this public IP address irrespective of the VM is down or on. Okay, now the VM is getting powered off. So once this is done, I can see the option to attach the network interface here. Okay, let's give it a minute. It will give us the option now. Okay, so let's go here, give it a refresh. It's still deallocating. So there are a lot of status here. Okay, so like there is an option called stopping, deallocating. We'll discuss that shortly. Okay, there are different state where your VM can be. Let me check if I have that slide so that I can quickly cover that part. Any questions from anyone so far? Okay, I'll take that as no. Okay, somewhere I had it. Okay. Okay, anyways, I'll check that later. Okay, so now let me refresh it. It should be stopped. Yeah, it's already stopped and deallocated, meaning it has deallocated some of the resources. So only the storage will be charged now. So it has deallocated the CPU and the memory consumption. Now it's only it's already stopped. Okay, there is no consumption. Now if you go to networking, you will have the option to attach more network interfaces. I can go and attach NIC1 or NIC2 now first and then attach it. So this one will get attached automatically now. Okay, because I am very sure that this VM size or VM family will allow 2 network interfaces. So if you look at here, it has changed to 2 network interfaces now. Now, if I want to attach more, I can just try that. It might give error based on the VM size, or if this VM size allows 3 or 4, then it might allow it. Looks like it supports more. Yeah, it supports. Okay, you can go up to 4, I guess, in this model. And if you go beyond 4, then you will get error that you have to reach the limit, and you have to change the instance family to support more network interfaces. Now I have got 3 network interfaces on this VM. So if I log into this VM, I'll be able to see all the 3 network interfaces now. Okay, let's start the VM and give it a minute. Okay, so to answer your question, Giri, we need to take downtime to attach more network interfaces. Yeah, so creating network interfaces, you can do it before the change activity, but attaching it, you need to do it, take a downtime. But disk and all, you can go and increase and decrease the size on the fly. Okay, let me log into the server now. It's getting started. It's running now. Okay, that's a good question. Let's try it. We should be able to have it. Yeah. See, for example, Dinesh, in some requirement, you might have to have network interfaces from different subnet. For example, you might have some replication subnet. You might have some backup subnet for sending the backup data. You might have some heartbeat subnet. So let me mute that line. Okay. You might have some heartbeat subnet. Yeah, one VM can have multiple IP address from different subnet also. Okay, so we'll explore that later, but these are the use cases, right? So one VM can have multiple interfaces for carrying different traffic for production traffic and for other replication, and they want to isolate the traffic for whatever things that we have, and we can do it by attaching it to different network interface. The NIC one can be assigned IP address from VLAN 1, VLAN 2, VLAN 3, and so on. Similarly, you can have virtual machines having multiple websites. So website 1 can be binded to NIC 1, website 2 can be binded to NIC 2, and so on. Okay, you can also use it for various use cases. So multiple network interfaces is needed based on the different use cases. Okay, so here, if I go and log into this VM now, okay, agent status is not yet ready. Okay, so it might take some time. Okay, we need to wait for this to complete, because like without that, the drivers and all those things will not get properly installed. Okay, so let's click on this and see what exact troubleshooting options it is giving us. Okay, VM extension issues are there. Okay, it might go and reinstall the VM extension. Okay, that's fine. Okay, meanwhile, we can log into the VM. That should be allowed.
Stan, actually for this case, I have restarted VM, so automatically agents has been added.
Correct. Yeah, sometimes it will work out that way. Yeah, Windows, right? Windows Server reboot.
Yeah, right.
Easier way of fixing things. Yeah. But in some of the production workload, we might not get that opportunity, right, to reboot just like that. So yeah, we might have to fix it. Anyway, so this is the VM. Now I can go to the network properties, and I can check whether all the 3 network interfaces are listed. Yes, I've got 3 network interfaces, and it's getting listed. So in some cases, you might have some specific workload where you might have to have a lot of larger bandwidth. So there might be some network slowness and all those things. So what you can do in such cases, you can actually go and enable. Okay, I'll just. Don't worry about these slides. Okay, so you can go and enable accelerated networking. Meaning, sometime there will be network related challenges. So your VMs will be very slow, or the packet transfer is very slow. Some people will tell that they are not able to quickly connect. So if there are some issues that are reported like that, you can go to the network interface, and on that specific network interface where the users are connecting or accessing, you can go and check whether the accelerated networking is enabled. So you need not go and do it for all the VMs, or sorry, all the network interfaces, but for the specific network interface where there is a lot of traffic and there is a lot of buffering happening, you can go and enable this accelerated networking. So what it will do is it will go and change the speed of the network card. See, for now, if you go and check the speed of the network card, it will be very less. And see, you can see that the driver that it has got is the default driver. Okay, let me show you that in device manager. Okay, if you go to the device manager, now before enabling the accelerated networking, it will have the default Microsoft Hyper-V network adapter. After enabling the accelerated networking, it will add a Mellanox adapter. Meaning this Mellanox adapter, it gives you much better speed. See, if you look at the driver and the details, it gives you much faster speed. Okay, let's wait for it. Okay, so it will take some time. See, there is a new adapter that got added. This is the adapter that it got added for adapter 3. If I go and check the adapter now, it will give you much better speed and details. If I go and check the jumbo packet, and you can also enable jumbo packet if in case you want to send a lot of replication traffic and so on. If you go and look at the speed and all those things, you will have more capacity. Okay, so RDMA and a lot of settings can be disabled, enabled to improve the performance. So you can check this. Okay, so for example, as of now, the details, if I go here, you will see maybe around 10 GB capacity now. If I go and check the properties and speed, if I go to IP version 4 and select this, and then go to properties, where exactly? I think if I right click on this itself, it should show us, right? Right click, status. 40 Gbps speed, which is very huge, right? So if I go and check the details, it will tell us that it is using the latest Mellanox technology, and this gives you much better performance. So only if there is a workload where you need to kind of improve the current situation, you can go and enable the accelerated networking. Don't go and do it for all the workload. Sometimes it might give you different behavior, and you might started getting a lot of concerns. But if the customer is saying that from this server to this server, they are getting very less transaction speed and they want to improve the latency and improve it. So there are some tools that Microsoft provides you, like you can use PS Ping or you can use NTTCP tool. These are all Microsoft native tools which you can download from Sysinternals. Okay, so for example, if I go to the Sysinternal tools here, okay, let me copy the link. And there are hundreds of tools that are available from Microsoft. Okay, I can just say Microsoft Sysinternal tool. This will help you to troubleshoot your uh, operating system. For example, if there is a CPU issue or a memory issue or networking issue, you can go and download these tools. For example, PS Ping is a very good tool to give you the TCP ping latency, bandwidth measurement, and so on. So this is the command that you have got here. So you can check the database server to web server or application server to database server. You can check the round trip latency using this either PS Ping tool, or you can use the NTTCP tool to check the throughput. This is for measuring the throughput. Okay, so this is getting recorded, right? You can also use this and do some testing. If there is a performance issue between your web server to app server or app server to database server, even you can check the latency on specific port also. That's the advantage of using these PS Ping and NTTCP tools. These are all very good tools to help check the latency, bandwidth, and all those things. So there are a lot of network utilities that comes free of cost. These are all Microsoft tool sets, so you don't have to worry. These are not third-party tools, so you can easily get approval from your security team to run these tools in your environment. So if there is a networking issue, better go and do the pre-checks, and after enabling the enhanced networking, if you are able to see some better performance, then it's actually good for the application team. Okay, you can enable accelerated networking, which can help you to improve the performance, and also you can use some Microsoft native tool sets like PS Ping or network TCP test tool, NTTCP. Yeah, it's triple tree, right? That's what I was just thinking. It's network throughput testing tool. Okay, network throughput and testing. Okay, this is available in GitHub. Okay, any questions from anyone? This will help you to check the latency, throughput, round trip time. Okay. So did I answer you, Giri? You are able to follow me, right? So adding network interface card, it needs something. And also, if you want to change the IP address from static to dynamic or dynamic to static, you can change it anytime. So if I go to the IP config here, you get the option to switch between static to dynamic, and also I can disassociate the IP addresses. Okay, so if I want to go and associate some public IP addresses, if I want to give one more public IP address for the server, I can also go and add one more public IP address. Okay, so these options are available. Okay, if I go to the IP configuration for that particular network interface card, I have the option to change it. So currently it is static. Go ahead. What is the question you have?
Yeah, yes, done. From one VM, public IP to private IP, how we can change it? While
How you
creating
can?
VM, while creating a VM, it is automatically taking for the public IP address.
Right.
So I want to
So
change for the private IP address for that VM. It is
So
possible.
yeah, so if you want to change the public IP address, you can go and use the services, public IP address services. And for example, if I want to change the public IP address for SunWin VM1, you can go to the configuration and you can go and change it. As of now, you cannot do it online. You have to go and stop it, and you can definitely change it on that specific network interface. Going to the network interface here, go to IP configuration. And if you want to change the public IP address, what you can do is you can select this and let me, if I want to use this one, for example, some other one. Okay, let me go and assign it now. Let me go to the console. I can go and create one more public IP address. Can go and reserve it now, create. Okay, I will say that this is a new public IP address. Let me say Sun VM1 public IP2, and I will say that okay, this is fine. I can just go and select the resource group here. Where exactly is that app service, or not app service? What is the one which you are using today? RG compute. Give me a second. This one. And if you want it to be zone redundant, you can select it to be zone redundant. And now Microsoft will be assigning the public IP address here. So if you want to look at the range, you have the detailed range available on the internet. I'll show you that. So once this is, when let it get submitted, meanwhile, I'll show you that. So Azure public IP ranges list. So Microsoft has given it on the internet itself. Okay, so if you want to go and download it, or if you want to look at in the portal, you will be able to see it here. Or else you can also download the complete range of IP address, but downloading it, they might increase it, or they might change the ranges later. So if you look at here, it has given what are the different IP ranges that they use in each of the data center location. So that is available in this document. Or else if you want to have a local copy, you can also go and download this Azure IP ranges file, which will be giving all the different IP ranges that they use in different data center. Okay, now it is downloading. You can just go and open it in a notepad or in a file. Okay, and you will be able to view it. Okay, so Microsoft has already exposed what are the different IP ranges or CIDR ranges that they use in each and every data center. For example, if I want to go and check South India, I can go and check South India, what kind of range they are using in South India. Okay, so in central India, for example, these are the ranges that they are already using. These are the public IP address ranges. And also they will be giving different ranges that they use for different services. Okay, for example, for Azure platform, they are using this range. And for specific service like action group, or there are some detailed information that are available here. Okay, now I've got a new public IP address that is assigned, and I can go and go back one step, refresh it, and go to the IP config, and I can use the new IP address which I've just created. Okay, this can be associated to SunWin VM1 now with this one, and I can change it. Okay, 1 minute, let me see. What is the one we created? Sun VM PIP1, right? Let me do this. I can just go and associate to that specific network interface on that server. For example, Sun VM1 NIC2, and I can say okay. Okay, it says okay, there are already different SKU. Oh, okay, got it. So what they are conveying here is, as of now, this particular network interface has got a standard SKU. Maybe the IP address that I created might be in a different SKU. So what I will do is I'll go and disassociate first and then associate it again. So here I can go to the configuration. Which one? The Sun VM1 PIP. This is the one, right? So go here, go and disassociate it. Okay, because currently it is using basic SKU. You cannot mix and match the stock keeping unit. When I say stock keeping unit, it is a kind of licensing. So if you are using basic one for one public IP, and you are using standard for another public IP, it will not allow you to do that. So I'll just disassociate it and I'll show you how to associate it now. Okay, so this is the way you can do it. So I think Bhaskar or whoever asked it, so you can just go and change it. You can reserve your own public IP address and you can associate it with that particular VM. Okay, associated PIP means that we can see another nick in that. Yeah, you can have as many number of public IPs associated to different network cards. Yes.
Stan Satya here.
Yeah.
Yes, actually, I have one doubt. That's IP which you're defining the network. It is being global for the entire Azure, where we can select the resource group and associate with the networks what we are creating, or only it is individual VM dependent.
Okay, so Satya, like when you talk about IP addresses, there are different options that you got. So there are options where you can go and use that particular public IP address globally. There are some public IP address which Microsoft has got, which is portable to all the regions, global region. Okay, this is called global tier. Okay, and let me explain that. So when you talk about public IP address, Microsoft has got different category. These are all something which recently got added. Okay, where maybe less than 6 months. So you got two tier. If you go and purchase the public IP address which is for a particular region, you can also purchase it for the region or use it for the region. Or if you want to have a public IP address which is a global tier, you can go and transport it. I mean, you can use that server elsewhere. I mean, any location with the same IP address. There are two SKUs: basic SKU and standard SKU. Standard SKU gives you a lot of better options. See, if you look at here, by default, it gives you Microsoft Network Backbone traffic. If you go to the basic option, you don't get that option of choosing Microsoft Backbone or Internet Backbone. Meaning, if you're choosing the basic SKU or the basic licensing, SKU means stock keeping unit. So stock keeping unit, or they call it as licenses. Okay, you can just compare it, think that as a licensing one. Okay, stock keeping unit, or you can just say that is a licensing stuff. Where if you're going for basic one, the disadvantage of going for basic one, you don't have the option to go between Microsoft Backbone network. So in the second class I showed you, right? Microsoft has got their own backbone network across the globe. Or if you can use the internet backbone. Okay, so if you go with basic, you get only the option to go with internet backbone only. But if you're going for standard, you have the option to choose between Microsoft Backbone or internet backbone. Okay, that is a good advantage you get. And also you get the additional options like whether you want to go with the different tier, like the global tier or the regional tier. Basic one does not give you that option. Basic one, it gives you the option to go with only regional tier, meaning you can use that IP. Okay, since I disassociated that IP address, this VM got disconnected. That's fine. Okay, so the basic one gives you only regional option. Okay, this standard SKU will give you regional option, or you can also use that IP address in the global Azure platform. Okay, so that's the biggest advantage. If you go to standard, you get these options, like whether I want to go with internet or Microsoft network, whether I want to use both IP version 4 or IP version 6. So all these additional advantages are there. Even you can use it across the data centers also. You also get the option to go and choose it as a zone redundant one. Okay, always go for the standard SKU, which is a good one because of the different options that it provides. Okay, now I can go and attach the other IP address. So for example, I've created a new PIP2, right? This one can be now associated to that particular virtual machine. Okay, I can go and attach it to the Sun VM1, where exactly that is this one, and I can attach it. Network interface, the different, yeah, see, this is the challenge, right? So we always have to be clear what exact tier that the VM is currently. Maybe the network interface that we have created, it is in the basic, basic tier, possibly. Let's go and check that. So let's go and check the interface Sun VM1. So now you can go and check what kind of configuration it has got. And sometimes we might be able to change it, or we might not be able to change it. Let's see, or else we have to recreate the network interface. Okay, let's see this one. Currently overview accelerated is enabled, and properties. Okay, this is all fine. It looks good. Okay, IP config. Okay, let me try it here. network interface associated with this VM does not allow different SKU type for public IP address in IP configuration. Okay, then possibly there are some different network interface in this machine that has got different SKU. Okay, let's go and fix all of them, or do you have to go and remove all the other ones which are not needed? Okay, for example, this might have that challenge. Let me go and detach these network interfaces quickly, so that I get the option to attach new one. But the answer to your question, you can change it. Okay, you can change the public IP address, you can associate a new network interface, or you can associate a new public IP address. All these things are possible, but you need to keep an eye on the SKU type, because it will not give an option to mix and match the SKU category. Okay, so you can associate a different public IP address to the NIC. You can change it anytime, but the SKU has to match between the NIC card and the public IP address type. Okay, so any questions from anyone so far? We are around 8 o'clock, right? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Stan, for one VM, can we put two VNet?
One VM, two virtual network, we can test it. Give me a second. Oh, this is okay, Apache, yeah. OpenOffice does not give me option. Let me give it a try. I save it as XLS. I'm not sure it is going to. Okay, let me choose. Okay, I'll do it. Okay, yeah, I think it should be allowing you to do it, but let's try it out during the network class. Okay, we'll try to create two VNets and try to attach two network interfaces to two virtual network. But now let me go and detach all these things. Did I detach the default one? See, I detached the default one, Sunwin VM1467. This is where we have to be a little careful. Okay, but yeah, I'll be able to restore it. Even though I selected it, when I clicked on the detach, on the drop down, I have to go and select and detach it. Okay, so let me attach that one again. Let's not touch the default one. But if you want to make a lot of changes, you might have to detach it, make the changes and attach it. That's also a good option that you can explore. Okay, so when you go and detach it, just go and select the one which you are planning to detach. Okay, otherwise it will go and detach the default one. All NICs attached to your VM must also be attached to the same VNet. They can't. Okay, then you have the answer already. Okay, so in the chat, I can see that Dinesh has copied a line item that it cannot have multiple virtual networks for the same VM. So all the network interfaces that you are attaching, it has to be in the same VNet. But as I said, it can have different subnet. Okay, you can have subnet 1, subnet 2 having attached to the same VM. So subnet can be different, but the network VNet has to be the same. Okay, now we are done, and we can go and associate the network now. Okay, so just you have to practice on your own. Okay, without you are doing the practice, these things you are not going to catch up very well. Okay, it will take some time. Okay, let me just try it now.
So Stanley, one question. Like practicing the same thing which we learned like today and yesterday. Same, it is available in the lab document which you mentioned available.
Yes. Most of the things will be available, but see, some cases I'm answering to questions and showing something, right? So in some cases I might show a little extra, but majority of the things that is needed for your exam, A is at 104 and A is at 303, it should be present in the lab materials. Yes.
Yeah, because I know when we moving here and then, it is still confusing, like where we need to go and out until we practice. It will be difficult to understand.
Yes. In some cases, Arun, I will be frank with my opinion. You might have to go through the recording again and try to do it on your own. You might have to spend more time. Okay, for example, whatever the 3-hour session, you might have to spend at least 6 hours going through it and then doing it on your own. It'll definitely help you to explore things, because whatever the attendees are asking questions, they are all very much valid questions, right? So it's good to know that and explore it. So Bhaskar, if you look at here, I have associated the second network public IP address that I've created. Now I was able to complete it. Okay, so we can do it. That's the answer.
Oh, perfect.
And Stanley, can you check the lab material is still available in the shared path, because I can see it's empty. Maybe it's removed or not. I'm still confused.
Yeah, I meant to copy it. I'll be doing it in maybe February 2nd or 3rd. I'll be doing it. Okay. Okay. Now we are okay. This week Thursday I'll be doing it, and I'll maybe on Wednesday I'll do it, and I'll convey that through the WhatsApp message. Okay. So for some people, if you have access to the Tamil recording, you might also already have the access to that. But for people whom I have granted only the English, the current session recording, you might start seeing those content by Jan 2nd or 3rd, sorry, Feb 2nd or 3rd. Okay, so let's see what else we can cover quickly. Okay, let's go to the VM1 here.
Stan bro.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yes,
bro. Actually, we missed something like in the availability. There were we discussed about two options. One is availability zone and availability set, and one more thing was there. I think we haven't discussed about it.
True. That is something called a paired region or a disaster recovery. That is for disaster recovery. If you want to have a replica of this VM in different region, then you have to go and enable that. So here you can see that the current state is powered off. So I'll go and turn it on. Okay, this is an option which we will discuss during the migration class or the disaster recovery class. Okay, so that is the paired region concept. You can have the second VM in different region, geographical region. That is the third option. Okay, for now, let's not get inside that. I'll show you that later. So now, if you look at, yeah. So let's at least cover some few areas here. Okay, let me try to catch up. Show you guys about the troubleshooting now. Let's discuss the next 15 minutes on the troubleshooting. Okay, so now you have understood the basics of how to create the virtual machine and how to choose the size. Now you need to maybe troubleshoot some of the stuffs, right? So let me just name this as VM support and troubleshooting. We might at least need one more day again to complete the virtual machine. We have a lot of things to cover. Okay, now when there is a kind of issue that is raised by this the application owner or someone, the very basic thing, if there are multiple application owners who are complaining, what you can do is you can go to the status.azure.com board and check whether there is any data center level outage or any regional level outage that is going on for a specific workload. For example, for virtual machine, whether the East Asia or the South India is actually reporting green. Sometimes the virtual machines in that particular South India might be completely impacted. Or else you can go and check which region you are working for, you're pointing to, and you can get that latest report. Or else you can go to service health. Okay, the first thing you have to start with is the global dashboard. This is called the global Azure dashboard, where you will get the complete report, status report. You can quickly check there, and you can go to the service health dashboard, which is specific to the services on your particular account. This will take you to your account directly, and you will be able to check the services in your account. There is a console that it will take you to. So Azure Health dashboard. Here you can see the different services that are there in your account. So if you look at here, before 4 days, there was a failure in the ARM deployment. Okay, you can see that 4 days back there was a failure, and the root cause they are going to provide you in maybe like February, which date they have given. So there was an issue on Microsoft data center 2 weeks back, and generally they will take 2 weeks to provide you the analysis report. So by 2nd of Feb, you can get the RCA report for what happened in this particular issue. So any specific service health issues or whatever happened in the past or whatever is going to happen, everything will be listed here. If there is a planned maintenance that is going to happen in your account, you can go and check which services will be impacted and all those things. You can also add a health alert which can notify to your account, to your email address, to your PDL or your whatever service desk team. It can be also notified. You can go and create an action group, and you can also add a SMS alert or a email message or whatever you want to do. You can send it to a specific team if there is a planned maintenance or if there is a service issue that is going on, you can raise it as a ticket also. Okay, there are options where you can go and configure the integration with your remedy or your snow or whatever, right? So if I go to the actions here, okay, let me create an action group. Here you have the option to integrate with your ITSM tool. Okay, so let me show you here. You can go and integrate with your ITSM tool. So you need to work with your ServiceNow team or work with your remedy team to get the connection details, and you can install the ITSM connection solution, and you can configure it to send the alert to your ticketing tool. Okay, whether it is a remedy or ServiceNow, that can be done. It's a one-time setup that you need to do. But what I'm trying to cover here, if there is a service issue or if there is an active issue that is going on, you'll be able to get it under the service health dashboard. Okay, you can go to the service health dashboard and you will get the details of what are the different services that are undergoing issues, or what are the different planned maintenance activities that are going to happen in your account, which will impact your workload. Those details will be available. Also, you will get health advisory. For example, if there is a natural disaster that is going on, or if there is a kind of cyclone or whatever, health advisory for each of the region will be available there. For example, if there is a heavy rain in a particular region like Chennai or Mumbai, so all those details will be published here. And if there is a new vulnerability or if there is a global vulnerability that is spreading and all those things, all those security related advisories will be populated there. So service health dashboard, it's very useful location where you will get to understand a lot of different things. Okay, so let me see. Okay, let it be like this for now. Okay, and the next one you can look at is the health history. Health history is more towards your resources. Okay, so for example, if something went down in the previous like 2 weeks back, or like you can check it for multiple last 1 month, or see last 1 month there has been 3 issues in my account, and last 3 months there has been multiple issues in my account. So Microsoft, what they do is, once there is an issue that has been identified and they have fixed it, they will give you a detailed documentation, which is called root cause analysis document. RCA documentation will be provided. And if you go through this document, this will be in a very beautiful structure. Okay, they might give you what was the issue, what was the what happened, which services are impacted, when the issue started, whether it is a global issue or a regional issue, which data centers were impacted, how the issue happened. Okay, it started with this time, what happened because of a hard fix installation, it went ahead and impacted this. So they will be giving you step-by-step instruction, like now we are working on this, next step they are going to do this, and all those things. And also they will give you when the issue got finally fixed. So it is a very good RCA document which you can use for providing your own RCA report also to your customers. Okay, it's a very good document that is available for each of the issues that has happened in your account. So RCA will be provided by Microsoft. So you can use that as a good template, and you can also use it. Okay, and next comes the resource health. Resource health is specific to your resources that you are having in your account. Okay, so for example, if you are having some specific resources like virtual machine or whatever you want to have, you can just select that specific stuff, and all those resource details will be listed here. So it will be loading the thing. You can check it here. The 3 virtual machine status are available here, or else you can go to your virtual machine specific resource, and on that specific resource you will be able to find a tab called resource health. Okay, it will give you the details of that specific resource. Okay, and also it will give you the details of the previous history, what happened in the last 4 weeks and so on. By default, you will be able to see the last 4 weeks resource health event in the console under the health history. Okay, this is for the specific resource level. Okay, so global dashboard will give you the global view, what is happening on the global level, what is happening on the regional level. Service health dashboard is specific to your subscription and account. Resource health is specific to your specific resource. Okay, so next comes your what we call the boot diagnostics. Boot diagnostics is specific to your virtual machine. So for example, you don't have access to the console, right? You don't have access to the GUI console like your VMware environment or like your physical server ILO. You don't have access to the console. So instead, Microsoft gives you a screenshot on how the current status is, whether it is a blue screen or whether the machine is starting or whether it is in booting mode, like what is the latest status here. So that will be captured as a screenshot and it will be stored in the storage account and it will be visible here. So boot diagnostics will give you the current screenshot of the console. Okay, and also you will get the serial log. Serial log means what happened when the machine booted. It will be giving you the booting log. It will give you the driver status. It will also give you the different information on what happened when the machine got started. Okay, it will give you the detailed information, whether what kind of architecture it is, whether there was any issues when the machine started. All those details will be available in the serial log. Serial log is more towards the machine booting. Okay, when after the BIOS, when the machine started out, whether there is any issues or whatever, it will be listed there. Okay, so it will have the boot logs. Okay, booting log is already mentioned, right? So next comes the performance diagnostics. Okay, if there is a performance issue that is being reported for that particular virtual machine, you can go and install the performance diagnostics agent and you can get more details here. See, as of now, this VM does not have the extension installed. Okay, let me copy this VM and I'll just log into the VM quickly. Okay, I know we are already reaching top of the time, but yeah, let's discuss for 5 more minutes. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to install the performance diagnostics agent on this machine. So it is going to install additional tool. So in order to do this, you need to get approval from the customer because it is going to add additional extension and it is going to collect more information, meaning in order to collect more information and storing it in Azure platform, you need additional cost. Okay, when I say Azure platform, it is going to store it in Azure storage account, which is going to consume additional data space. So it is more cost. Okay, so you have to convey this, you have to confirm that with the customer before you are going and enabling this. There are 3 levels of analysis it can provide. It can give you advanced performance analysis or it can give you a quick performance analysis based on your requirement. So if you go and enable quick performance analysis, the data size will be very small, but you will be able to get the performance RCA very quickly. But if you want to enable advanced performance analysis, it is going to gather all the different data like the event viewer data, the performance monitoring data, the network traffic data. It is going to get all different data and it is going to accumulate more. And here you can also add the support request number. For example, if there is an open case with Microsoft, see at the very bottom of it, you have the support plus troubleshooting option. If you click on this, it will help us to open a support request number. So if you want to add that support request number here, even Microsoft will get access to that particular diagnostics report. Okay, you don't have to upload and download, put it into a separate space for them. Okay, they will get access to the diagnostics report and they will be able to help you with fixing the issue quickly. Okay, so you have the option to enter it. Okay, so meanwhile, I'll show you this. Now we have logged into this VM. And as of now, you will not be seeing all those additional plugins or extension. So if I go to the plugins column here under the C drive, it will be empty now. Okay, let me just close this. It will take a minute. So meanwhile, I'll just prepare this VM. Okay, let me go to the folder. So there are 2 areas which you have to focus on. The number 1 area, yesterday we saw that, right? In under the C packages, you have the plugins folder. So only when we install any additional plugin, this plugin folder will get created. So as of now, just now we have started installing the performance diagnostics agent. See, now just now 6:47 a.m. in East US, it just added a plugins folder. And within that, you will start seeing the performance diagnostics agent plugin, which is an extension again for collecting the information. It's a diagnostics extension. It will add the tools and it will fetch using these command line DLL files or the batch files. Using that, it is going to gather the information. It will install this extension and it will gather it. So if you want to see which are the plugins are installed, you have to come to the C Windows packages plugins and you will be able to get the list. This is one location. The other location is you can go to C Windows Azure, and here you have the packages list. Here also you'll get the different packages that are all installed here, or you can also go under the logs. You will be able to find the list here. If you go to the plugins, you will see which are the different plugins that are installed. So anything that you want to get the log information, what has gathered or what are the information that is passed on, you can go inside it and you will be able to get all the log information that it is gathering and sending it to the Azure platform. So these are the logs that it has gathered from your machine and it is going to send it to the Azure platform. Okay, so these are the two locations you can find it. You can go under the C Windows Azure, or you can go to C packages and you'll be able to get those details. Okay, so when you install any plugins, one location it gets added under the C Windows Azure location, where you will have the packages, logs, and all details. And the other location is you will be seeing it under the C packages plugin. Any plugin that you install. Yesterday also we installed VM Access extension, right? That also added a plugin under the same location. So now if I want to go and do some reset password or resetting the configuration, when I say resetting the configuration, it is going to reset the RDP configuration only. Only the remote desktop configuration is going to get updated. So for example, if you're not able to take remote of the machine, so I'm not able to take RDP of the VM, then you can come and do a reset option here. So the reset configuration, the remote desktop configuration option, it is going to only reset the RDP configuration. So they should have given that as a kind of clear option there. But yeah, the reset the configuration means it is going to reset the remote desktop configuration. If the port number has changed, or if there is if you have disabled, enabled it, it will go and reset the configuration. The next option is if you're not able to log in with the credential, you can go and reset the password here. Not able to log in with the credential that you have got, you can go and reset the password. Okay, that is the option that you have here. So if I do any of these, it will go and add the VM Access extension. Yesterday we saw that, right? So the VM Access extension will be used for resetting the password or resetting the administrator account. So it will go and add additional plugin there. So now if I go and check here, it will start adding the VM Access extension here. If I refresh it, it will be available in a minute. Okay, so now see, these are the method, or these are the ways you can troubleshoot. If you cannot just go and directly restart the VM, or just like your previous experience, you cannot go and do that. So you have to do troubleshooting step by step, and then you can take a decision on whether we need to reboot or whether we need to do some changes. Okay, so if I look at the next option, we have got redeploy and reapply option. Redeploy is going to see, you can see the VM Access extension is getting added, and this is again a plugin. So a lot of people will go and check the regular location, right, where we go and check the programs and features. Under the app wizard, you will not see any of those programs here. So anything that you add from the Azure platform, it will be getting added under the C packages plugin, not under the programs and features. Okay, be clear about it. Okay, so now the redeploy option is mainly to migrate the virtual machine from one Azure hardware to another Azure hardware, meaning one Azure server hardware to another Azure server hardware. Like we call it as vMotion or something in your VMware. Like so, redeploy means you are restarting the VM first. Okay, restarting the VM, and after the restarting the VM is complete, it will move the VM to another Azure host. If the issue is not getting fixed, you can try to do this. Okay, it will restart the VM and move the VM to another Azure hardware, so that you can verify whether the issue is automatically fixed. Sometimes you might not be able to connect to the machine. You might not be able to reach it in the network. So maybe it might be a hardware issue. In order to understand if it is a hardware issue, you can go and redeploy it. So reapplying means it will go and reapply the machine state. Okay, so it will rerun the VM provisioning, and it can also fix sometime. Okay, so it's a last resort. You should not do the reapply at the beginning itself. It will try and apply the default configuration. Okay, whatever we had at the initial stage, that will be reapplied. So next one, it's a very good option called serial console. It is a command line console where you can go and take the control of the machine using the command line, and you can start troubleshooting it. So in order to use this command line option or this serial console option, you need to enable a storage account where you can capture the information. Okay, there is a prerequisite for that. Okay, I know I'm running a little fast here, but let's try to complete at least these two options. Okay, so if you want to take control of your machine on the command line prompt, okay, from the Azure platform itself, you have this option to do it. Okay, so for example, you need not log into the virtual machine and unnecessary create a profile, unnecessary add more what we call weightage to the VM. Instead, you can do the troubleshooting from the Azure platform itself. Okay, so they're not giving you GUI option, but rather they are giving you an option to manage the machine from the command line prompt, from the serial console. Okay, so serial console, it is an option through which you can manage the VM using command line from Azure platform itself. Okay, so I'll show you quickly what exactly we can do there. So refresh it. So now you'll get the serial console enabled and you will be able to log into this prompt. By default, it will take you to a prompt called SAC prompt, Special Administrative Console prompt. Okay, so they have given it here. Okay, by default, it will take you to the Special Administrative Console, meaning it's a SAC prompt, Special Administrative Console, SAC prompt. And SAC prompt can be converted to a command prompt also. Command prompt is the default CLI prompt in your Windows system, right? So with SAC prompt, what is it? Okay, the storage account, okay, it is taking some time. Okay, whatever the storage account that I have selected, it might not be available, or let's see that. Okay, enable with custom storage, that's fine. Maybe if there is some issue with the storage account, I can go and create a different storage account also. This is for VM troubleshooting. Okay, let me quickly create it. Already taken a 001. Okay, let me add it. So let me save it. Okay, the reason you need to have a storage account is that whenever you are going and doing some command line troubleshooting, you might have to export that into a Excel, text file, or you might have to have that data available for further analysis, right? So you need to have a storage account in order to enable the serial console, and whatever output you are getting through that particular special administrative console or the command prompt, it will be available for you to do some further troubleshooting. Okay, I'll show you some examples later. For now, let's see what. Okay, will not appear in the portal if you change. Okay, that's fine. Okay, it will take some time. Okay, so we are rushing now. I'm not sure if it is going to immediately work, but let's give it a try, or else we'll continue on next Saturday on this. How about movement of the VM from one subscription? Yeah, that is available through Azure Resource Mover, right? Yesterday we saw that option. So we can try and do it. Yeah, Azure Resource Mover will give you option to move it across subscription, or that will give you these three options. You can move it across subscription, you can move it across another region, you can move it from one resource group to another resource group also. Okay, so I think we'll continue on this particular troubleshooting list on next Saturday, because there are some issues with the storage account. We'll continue this. Okay, I'll show you what kind of things you can do in the serial console, what are the other connection troubleshooting you can do. Okay, we'll continue next Saturday on this. Any questions from anyone on what we have discussed in terms of VM instance family, or any questions on how to take an image? Any questions on how to create the availability set and availability zone, how to choose it? Any questions on what we have discussed today? So we at least need three more hours to complete the virtual machine. So we'll continue to discuss the virtual machine on next Saturday. Okay, so no worries. Okay, I'll cover it up on next Saturday. Okay, any questions on what we have discussed yesterday and today?
Stan,
yeah.
For moving VM, right? If you say there is an issue with the hardware, right? If you want to move, right, is it moving based on the availability zone or state?
Yeah, it will be on the same data center only. It will not move between data center. It will be moving from one Azure server hardware to another Azure server hardware. Redeploy means it is moving from one Azure host, meaning from one server hardware to another server hardware. Only that much. It is not moving the backend storage, or it is not going to move anything else. It's on the same availability zone, in the same availability zone or availability set also.
So it will do it on the backend automatically, or do we need to manually do anything?
Yeah, so you have to click on the redeploy option. It's not online migration like your vMotion. It is a downtime. It will restart the VM and start the VM. It will stop the VM on the host 1 and it will start the VM on host 2. It's a kind of what we call high availability concept, right? In VMware, it will stop and start the VM. So it's the same here. It will restart it. There is a downtime associated. It's not online migration. It's not online movement. It will stop the VM on host 1 and it will start it. It will restart the VM. There is a downtime there. Yeah, go ahead.
Stan bro?
Yeah, please go ahead.
It is about production actually. What is the widely used series of configuration?
Okay, you cannot group it. So mostly Azure platform is used for web servers and application servers. So mostly it is compute optimized and general purpose, which is widely used actually. But see, some database servers, it mostly ends up getting created in Oracle data center or on-prem because of the data sensitivity. So mostly it's compute optimized and general purpose, which will be widely used. Yeah. But I mean, don't quote me on that. But in the experience that I've had, it's mostly the general purpose and the compute optimized. Yeah.
Okay, bro. Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions from anyone? Okay, if there are no other questions, I'll stop the recording.